Hello and welcome to the BNB show. My name is Brandon Kane, and this man here to my left, that's Seahawks, Brendan Nelson, back in the house. Brendan, as we go think, one by one through these positional groups here in this draft to help you get better educated on what to expect when come to draft day, who the Seahawks will be looking to target. Brendan, it's great to have you back in the house. How is the day going?
So far, so good, but there's still plenty of time. We could end up being the worst day of my life still. There's still plenty of time.
There is. There's always a little bit. There's always hours left in the day. Well, we've got a fun one to chop up today. There's some positional groups that are a little more exciting than others from fan bases' perspective of things. And today we're going to be looking at what is, for all fan bases, usually one of the hotter positions, being a wide receiver. And on top of this, Brendan, it's also a position that's going to be maybe as much in need as we've kind of seen it. I know we've got Cooper Kupp here and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, but this is as much as a position we've seen an actual need here, and probably going back to maybe the DK Metcalf draft.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like most draft classes these days are pretty good at receiver and corner. It feels like the balance of the universe is shifting towards making sure those positions are always pretty thick with good players. So I think that's just kind of the direction of the league right now. But yes, I think this team desperately needs to add receivers. We don't have anything on this team that I trust to be here longer than a year other than JSN. And JSN, I think we all understand, is a relatively siloed player. He's great in a particular role, but he's only great in that particular role. You take him out of that role, he's just another guy. So you definitely want to get guys who are very good at the other roles so he can stay where he's good. I know people are relatively excited about Cooper Kupp, and I'm not saying that he's going to be bad, but he is old. He is on a 3-year deal with a pretty darn easy out after 2 years. Would not shock me if he's a one and done. And then you got MVS, he's got some skills. He's got some good things about him, but at the end of the day, he's just a guy. I don't believe in Jake Bobo, really. I think Bobo could easily not even make the team this year if this keeps up. Like, he did not impress me last year. And other than that, you've got Derek Young. He's another guy who may not be on the team this year. So there's nothing on this team at that spot that I feel like is good to go other than JSN.
Yep, I feel the same way on it. And the unfortunate part here, Brendan, is that this is looked at as a wide receiver class that's not as strong as what we've had in recent years. So maybe not the greatest of years to be having to go for wide receiver, but nonetheless, I would say I think it's maybe a little bit underrated because I do like some of these guys. I feel the same way from a grand picture scheme.
I mean, nothing is going to live up to last year, right? Last year you had Marvin Harrison, you had Rome Odunzie, you had Malik Neighbors, who may end up being the best of them all. Like, the way he had that rookie year with no quarterback play was pretty remarkable. Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome. Even a guy like Xavier Worthy, who I'm not a fan of, there is something to be said for his skill set. You're not going to top that draft class. So anything following up that draft class is going to seem like a big letdown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's we might look back on that one as almost an old timer when it's all said and done, Brendan, on that. Even Ladd McConkey in the second round went for 1,200 yards last year.
Yeah, Ladd, that's a good one.
Yeah, good point with it. Definitely makes anyone look worse coming off the end of that one on the other side.
Yeah, it's like trying to follow Leno.
Oh, yeah. It's like, following Carson, that's another tough one. Well, let's get into these guys. And I think you would agree, Brendan, that this is a position that's in play anywhere in this draft and that the value could drive you anywhere into the first through 7th round. We're not going to obviously go that deep into it as far as those guys at the back end, but that does make this all the more interesting in that there's not a specific place to target. And we kind of have, for instance, a place where we're looking at the targeting of the interior of the line, 2nd, 3rd round, because that's where the value would seem to be. But there would seem to be value with the receivers all the way throughout this draft.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think there is an unlikely, although still present scenario where we end up at number 18 sitting there and the BPA is a receiver and the clear best pick would be a wide receiver. And we'll talk about that scenario very quickly here. I want to stress, I think it's unlikely, but I wouldn't call it impossible.
No, I wouldn't either. And that's the way when you're running a value board, everything's kind of in play depending on who's the value guy you got on the height of the board, especially when you combine it with need, and receiver is a bit of a need coming into this. So that's where I think it could line up. Let's talk about the couple of guys who would be into that area of probably being potential guys you could be looking at in that first round. And the first guy would be my number one wide receiver in this draft, and a guy that I think is seems to got to be knocked a little bit here in recent weeks. What are your thoughts on Tetairoa McMillan?
All right, let's see here. Tet McMillan. Do we have his data? Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so he's big, right? That's the first thing that jumps out to you with Tet McMillan. He's got the size. He's got that Mike Evans size. He's got that Drake London size. He's going to win a lot of the engagements in the NFL just based off his size. And actually, those are the two most common comps you will find for this guy, Mike Evans, Drake London. The Drake London one almost seems spot on sometimes. Like this guy, it's like you're watching one of those time travel movies where you have two of the same guy running around and they're both, and it's Drake London and Drake London's clone. Doesn't have the greatest speed in the world. There is a little bit of a trade-off there, but the production over the last 2 years has been absolutely off the wall. He's given you almost 2,800 receiving yards over the last 2 seasons combined. Very hard to cover him because of his size. He's got a good feel for zone coverage, knows where the openings are in the zone coverage, finds them, sits down in them. Big catch radius, really good at rescuing inaccurate passes. He's skilled hand fighting with corners, really good around the boundaries. He does the toe drag stuff, really good body control and awareness of where the sideline is. He's got some burst to get open. I know he's not fast, but he does have a little bit of a burst to get open. Decent yak player as well. But you are going to find a lot of his catches are contested because he's not that fast. And that is the thing that people get hung up on here. He doesn't really separate that well. And he ends up leaning on his contested catch ability a lot, which, hey, to his credit, he's really good at it. But he doesn't necessarily separate that much. I'd like to see a little more urgency in his routes. I feel like he's not very good at beating press yet. That's something that's going to have to come in the NFL. But I think he's clearly the best receiver in this class. Now, I would prefer a speedster at receiver personally, because that's what the Seahawks need right now. But that doesn't mean I'm passing this guy up if I have a chance to take him. I think he's a top 10 player in this draft. If he's there at 18, I am on that like white on rice.
Yeah, I am as well. And I know the Drake London one's been thrown a lot. I go more Mike Evans on the comp for me. I think that just feels more right. And it's also as well, Jaden Higgins to me feels more Drake London in this draft quite than Tetairoa does. But I can understand the comp. So don't get me wrong there. It's in the general neighborhood as contested catcher guys that aren't pure separators at the route running position, just not how they win. And the 10-inch hands are the notable part with him, especially too, because that's part of what helps with the contested catches. He can just get those big mitts on the ball, former volleyball player, able to get it done. He's agree with most of what you said there. I think that when it comes to press, a lot of these corners were pretty scared to get up and press him. It was not something where they wanted to get in that alignment very often with him. It was very rarely done. I think most corners are going to want to try to play him in off coverage to have that opportunity to be able to just kind of prepare for that size coming at you downhill in the way that it does. Also didn't have the best of quarterback play, which I think has got to be notable here, where you look at this guy with 213 and almost a 1,400-yard year last year, a 1,300-yard year this year. That's with Jed Fish leaving, their offensive head coach, going to Washington at that point, yet doesn't miss a beat with a new coaching staff. The quarterback and watching the play is just a little bit rough at times, that QB, and there's times where he's breaking open and the QB's not finding him. And I think that just makes his production that much more, to me, impressive that he got it done. But I really do trust in my comp to Mike Evans. I wouldn't throw that around willy-nilly or just wantonly. I think that I'm not expecting him to produce like Emmons has in his career, but he's got that same ability to high point a ball, even more so than Drake London, to where they're high pointing it like a volleyball player, where they're jumping and it's like the old movie where the guy can, he jumps so high that they put a dollar up on the top of a basketball backboard. And if you saw that movie, and the guy can jump and reach the top of the basketball backboard, take the dollar and leave 50 cents. These are those kind of guys that can get up there to that height and get there. It's just a whole nother level to me as far as their extension and catch radius, which I think is going to translate to the next level. So yeah, if he's there at 18, I'm jumping on him all day long. And I do trust in that comp.
Yeah, first game of the year last year, he had like 350 yards or something. And then the rest of the season, they were throwing like everything they had at him. Every defense was just like, okay, we got to triple team this guy. We got to remember Steve Smith in the NFC title game against Seattle. It was almost like that. And he still put up some numbers. Yeah.
Well, and to your point, I mean, who's the receiver opposite him? They had Cowling last year, who went, I believe, in the 5th round to to San Francisco. And indeed, he had another 100 yards, a couple other more touchdown receptions last year. He was more effective even as a player last year with having just a little bit of help. But you had nobody opposite you this year. You know, a Jaden Higgins has got a Jaylin Noel out there helping him out. You know, some of these guys have some relief to them, and he doesn't. To your point, he's the whole focal point of that offense.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if he's there at 18, he will probably be my BPA at that point. And I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think the league's going to allow this. We were kind of having fun talking about that interview he did a few years ago where he was like, "Oh, I don't really like watching tape." I feel like that kind of came and went in the night. I don't think it's lingering on and affecting him negatively, really.
Yeah, I don't either. It's from when like his freshman year. I mean, he's a kid. Like kids say stupid stuff. Kids do the stupid things. Sometimes it's give the guy a chance to grow and mature in age and stuff. So, you know, I'm not as worried about that. I mean, you want the love of the game, but I think, Brendan, a lot of people would be surprised at how many people in the NFL play the sport that don't necessarily just have some purified love of the sport where just they wake up in the morning and all they do is think about football. They can still be a really effective player without it having to necessarily be that. And there's been no real questions about work ethic with him. Sorry.
The best player in the NBA right now doesn't like basketball. Like
there you go.
It's very well known. He does not even like basketball at all. He just does it because he's good at it.
There we go. So that's kind of, I think, you know, it doesn't dissuade me as it would maybe some others on that one.
Yeah, I'll live with that. But he would kind of be the ultimate pipe dream. I think he is the one guy that you could get that it's at least higher than 5% chance he's there. That would just make everybody really, really get amped up. I don't think anybody would be down about this one. And if you would be down about it, I highly recommend you just watch this guy's tape and understand how good he should be.
Yeah, I think that no matter where they're at on that, by the time he gets out there on the field and starts playing game one, this guy's going to have an impact. And I agree with everything you said on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, keeping it moving here to who we've got, I think is your I don't know if this is your number 2 or not, but for a lot of people, it's your number 2. It was at least on the list that you sent me with it. And this is a guy that's a very interesting player out of Missouri. Another guy, a little bit of help with Theo Weiss out there, as we're talking about the help with McMillan versus not. That's Luther Burden.
All right, so Luther Burden, and this is going to be kind of the start of one of the issues that you and I have both kind of had in this draft class. A lot of guys that are not really meant to play on the outside. Luther Burden, I'm not taking anything away from him. He's got good speed. He's got good yak skills. His ball skills are really good. His ability to find the ball in the air and pluck it. He makes plays short, intermediate, deep. He's affecting the play all over the field. Legitimate vertical threat. Great hands. Can shake open quickly. Good at finding holes in zone. But at the same time, all of that needs to be filtered through this understanding that we're talking about a little bit of a shorter guy with a little bit shorter arms. He's a slot receiver at the end of the day. He's a little bit undersized. He can easily be disrupted by physical defenders. There is, I think, a little bit of laziness in his route running. He is one of those guys who, if he's not the primary option, will kind of ease up a little bit. And he was mostly a yak receiver in college. He was a guy who would get short passes and then go do something with the ball in his hands more so than I think a good chunk of his plays were like screens and, the bubble screen type plays. I haven't seen the numbers, but I have a feeling it's higher than average. He did not have a good 2024, although there are legitimate reasons for that, I will say. He had like less than 700 yards, much worse than his 2023. So I suspect he's a slot receiver. I still think he's worth a first-round pick if you're a team that is 11 personnel heavy. But yeah, he's a slot receiver at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would see him in a kind of a similar way. He's played his first freshman year as on the outside, and he was much more effective the second that they moved him into the slot. So can he be moved to the outside? Maybe, but he's just not going to be anywhere near as effective what he can be as a slot guy. The physical coverage stuff is an important part of this. He does a lot of trying to kind of bounce around it as he's running in through the secondary a little bit. But if he gets hit, if he gets knocked around, if the guy gets their hands on him, he can be brought a little bit to a standstill. Really dynamic with the ball in his hands, Brendan. Absolute, yak monster out there, which is what you want with the slot guys, but he really does bring that. I felt like he's got a kind of almost a Kadarius Toney-like dead leg that he brings a little bit, where he can set that dead leg up and just bomb. He loses guys in the open field all the time with it. good hands, good ability to raise up and go get the catch despite being only a 5'11" guy. I don't think he kind of plays quite at 4'4" on the field that he was tested at. I think he's more kind of closer to a 4'5" guy, but I like him a lot. I'm not as big on him because I do think he's to an inside guy. Some people think that he was misused with Missouri and he can be bumped to the outside. I don't see that a fluidity in his game. He is just going to be a slot to me, but he'll be a really good slot in this league. I think I see him as kind of a DJ Moore as a slot specialist. You like that comp?
Okay. I can get behind that. I can see that a little bit. And I think he'll be really good as a slot receiver, but you just have to understand that there is a little bit of reduced value there. Not as much as there used to be, but I think that it's just become a much more precious commodity to have receivers that can play on the outside, because I feel like these inside receivers pop up all the time. Like you can get a competent guy like the Efton Chisholm guy from Eastern Washington that some people like.
Yep.
Like you can get that guy probably in UDFA at this point.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think half the receivers in this draft, just about that we'd be looking at inside the 5 rounds, if we were to divvy it up, I think nearly half of them would be slot wide receivers, or at the very least that they have slot versatility that they bring and that they're going to play 50-50 a little bit in how they go. So I agree. I don't think that there's as much push here to have to drive yourself into a first round for a slot guy like this, unless you're really getting difference making upside. You're getting a true ceiling to him. And I don't know if the ceiling to this guy, I don't see him reaching like a David Moore, and even David Moore's a good player. But I don't even think he's going to get to quite to where David Moore's at. Moore's a guy that can play on the outside a little bit more than this guy can, I think. So I like him, but I'm more of into the second round range of him than because of that, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm right around there. I'm like very late first round. I think it's fair if you're a team like the Rams that live in 11 personnel.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there. He's got to go to a team's going to play 3 wide receiver. Looks like 70%, 75% of the time. That's
who else does that? Like Tampa Bay, I think, is up there.
I think Tampa Bay. I think Miami is maybe in play here with them in the first round. Basically, Tyreek's got the old domestic thing popped up yesterday.
Yeah, I heard about that. He's got to be done. He's gotten away with stuff for a while now.
Boy, has he ever, man. That guy even going back to college, right? That's one of the reasons he dropped in the draft in college was because of some thing going on with that, like some guys are just kind of live wires and can't help themselves, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't he have like 1 million babies too? He
had like 5 last year with 5 different women or something.
Oh, there's a mature guy. Okay.
Well, he can afford it, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. He's gonna need that he's gonna need that final contract though.
Yeah, he's trying to be Genghis Khan. I can't hate a man for trying to be Genghis Khan.
I suppose not. We'll get 100 years from now and be like, 1/10 of the children down in southern Florida have lineage connected back to.
Oh boy, yeah, the Hill Dynasty in South Florida.
Exactly. Well, here's another guy that next guy on our list that I actually have a first round grade on myself. He's crept up there for me. And this is a guy that's been a bit of a late riser. Interested to see where you stand on him a little bit. Matthew Golden, the Texas kid, a bit of a Z slot guy a little bit.
Yeah, this has become my second receiver in this draft. And I do have him in the first round as well. I'm not 100% sure I'm there at 18, but I'm close. And I think I'm close enough to where if it happened, I'd be pretty cool with it. I wouldn't love it, but I'd be like, yeah, all right. I can see that making sense. So obviously this was one of the guys who stole the show at the combine with his 40 time 4.29, 1.49, 10-yard split. So absolute money in that regard. Great speed, great acceleration. He's got great ball skills. He can lull defenders to sleep with his route running. He's one of those guys that kind of can pace himself and just take off, and the defender doesn't really know what hit him. He was effective all over the field for Texas and in all 3 alignments. They put him at the X, they put him at the Y, they put him at the Z, and he was able to produce. Took big strides forward in 2024 with his hands. I think as recently as 2023, his hands were not very good, but they're getting better. Also should offer a little bit of special teams value. Like even if the receiver stuff doesn't work out great, I think he'll be a really good special teamer. And he's got that quick twitch agility to get open quickly. He can just shake open really fast, and it's really hard for the defense to do anything about it. But on the other hand, only 1 year of real production. Before then, he was just a reserve. Now he's behind some really nice players on that Texas receiver core, but undersized. I think his routes are also a little bit lazy, not a stellar route runner. Doesn't have a lot of play strength. Still not great hands. They're good, but I think they can get a little bit better. I am a little bit concerned about his ability to play outside at the next level because of his size, but I give him a chance. I think he's got a better chance playing outside than Burden or than the guy we're going to talk about a little bit later, who's also considered to be a first rounder by many. And he's got the short arms, which makes me it reduces his catch radius. I'll put it to you that way. So I am a little hesitant here, but I do think he's a first rounder. I think speed kills at the end of the day. That's the thing you can't teach. So he is my number 2 receiver. I definitely think he's a first rounder. I'd prefer to trade back a few spots and get him if I could, but 18 would be okay in my book.
Yeah, I'm on that same line with you. Where if you could trade back a little bit, that'd be nice. I like him a lot as well. I think I'm way more higher on where his route running is than you are. I think he's potentially the best route runner in this draft, to be honest with you. I found him to just be kind of a destroyer of worlds on over routes, a guy that's just very hard with his running gait because he's one of those kind of smooth. It's always like the Jerry Rice kind of thing where your running gait is so smooth, and when you transition in and out of your breaks, you don't change your running gait. There's a lot of guys that'll sink down. There's guys that'll start to pitter patter their steps a little bit. They'll slow down as they get to the point of the break at the stem of the route. With him, he's just going to accelerate in and out of his breaks just effortlessly. He's got the body control to do it as well. I think he's going to create separation at the next level just on that basis alone and be able to get open. There are some things, the arm length, as you mentioned. I think he also does struggle with the press coverage, which you worry about with him on the outside at the next level with the small arms. And then the press coverage side of it, he kind of just tries to use his quicks and just kind of get by you quick, getting up the field off the press. But if you get your hands on him, he's not a big guy. So, you can definitely slow him down through the course of his route that way. That's why I do see he's going to have to play Z. He's not playing any X. So you're going to have to keep him a yard off the line of scrimmage and try to protect him a little bit of that. And he'll be doing a little bit of slot stuff in addition to that. I thought his blocking is okay. He's willing, but he's not strong. So he just gets jacked backwards on contact, way too often.
He can get in the way.
Yeah, he can get in the way. Third of his yards came from yak, so he's not a big major yak guy. Most guys that are more yakish guys are going to be about almost half their yards will be kind of coming off the yak. And with him, it wasn't. He'll do enough. He'll get upfield. He'll be fast with it, but he's not going to be dynamic necessarily with the ball in his hands. The 1 year production is also a little bit concerning. This is where we get to, it's like, I like him, but I'm like, it's also kind of like you're going, boy, just the 1 year. But then, like you said, the depth of the receiver, they had 2 drafted wide receivers in the first and second round last year, a tight end drafted probably the third round. And so you go, hey,
I think it was early 4th, but you're same thing, whatever.
Yeah. And then you've got, Quinn Ewers throwing you the ball. I was watching the tape last night and I just, Brendan, again, every time I turn the tape on of this guy, just random tape. I'm watching Golden. I'm not even locking on yours. You know what I mean? And it's the first tape. The amount of god awful throws that man tosses on tape. He should have had 35 interceptions last year. You know how many dropped interceptions Ewers had on tape? It's ridiculous. And there's also times you're watching though on tape where he's breaking open and Ewers has got his head up his butt, and you don't know what he's like looking at a check down, and he's got him running free 50 yards up the field. But that's neither here nor there. That's my daily Ewers rant.
No, it's pretty much there. I mean, hey, Quinn Ewers is in this draft class too, right?
He drives me nuts. Please don't draft Ewers, John. Please don't do it. Please, God, don't do it. But I think that's also a little bit of what limited the production is. He's getting open. It's just sometimes Ewers just wasn't finding him.
Yeah, I mean, one thing with Golden I felt like is that he would kind of pop up on his routes when he's about to hit his break, and it kind of felt like it was like a tell when he was about to hit his route break. Did you notice any of that?
No. See, I think we saw 2 different things on the route running, because for me, I feel like he is just almost impossible to predict when he's going in and out of his breaks. And from my standpoint of it, and there's receivers like that I did see that would do that type of thing where they buckle down and they kind of, you see them sinking down and they're still trying to run fast, and it's a bit of a tell. But no, I found with him, he's very hard to predict, and he really can set up with the body control that route running too.
All right. Well, I would not be upset getting him at 18. I wouldn't necessarily love it, but I don't think I imagine that he'll find success at the NFL level. He's just too fast, and he does have his ball skills are too good to not.
I think he's got a good floor to him, Brendan. Maybe there's a little bit of a limit to the ceiling, and he should hit that floor, I think, pretty quickly. But, this isn't maybe going to be a star type player, but I see a Rashee Rice is kind of the guy that I see in the Kansas City, kind of do it all kind of receiver.
I liked Rashee Rice last year a lot, or no, 2 years ago.
Yeah, got injured last year, but yeah, I just see him in that kind of mold. He'll be a very effective, not a star, just really effective at what he does.
Yeah, and we need it right now. So if you do reach a little bit for need there, I'm not going to be too upset about it.
No, I won't either. I'll understand it. Next gap is a guy a lot of people have in the first round. I do have him myself into the second. This is a guy that's been getting a little bit of heat lately in the last about 2 weeks from some connections, maybe potentially here with Seattle. Emeka Egbuka, the Ohio State kid, the slot out there. Brennan, can this guy play on the outside? Are you a believer he can play on the outside?
I am not really a believer there. I think that he's right on that line. I'm kind of in the same place with him as I am Burden. I think I like Burden a little bit more than Egbuka. Egbuka is a nice enough player. He's a good route runner. He understands defensive coverages. He understands where to go against zone, like the way he attacks zone. He's got good body control. He's got good ball skills. Really good at helping save his quarterback. If he looks back and he sees his quarterback is in the scramble drill, he will run back to the quarterback and try to clear open so he can help his QB. He's got pretty good size for a slot receiver as well. And he plays with a decent amount of physicality, I think. But yeah, he's a slot receiver to me. I don't think his speed is very good. He didn't run at the combine, so we don't know what his 40 would have been, but I don't think it's that good. I don't see him beating man coverage very much. I don't see him running past pro DBs. Quick twitch movement is kind of mediocre. I don't think his yak skills are going to be all that good, and he's not going to win a lot of contested catch situations. So the comp that NFL.com had on him is JSN, which is kind of the easiest comp to make in the world. And I think it's a reasonable comp. I think JSN was probably a little bit better, but I kind of feel the same way about Egbuka that I felt about JSN at the time. If you're a slot heavy team, he's probably worth a lower first round pick, but you're going to have to find that right situation for him. And I think if you try to move him to the outside, you're not going to get great play out of him.
Yeah, I do foresee it the same way. I think he has a little more speed than JSN, but I think JSN's change of direction in and out of his breaks was a little bit better between the two of them. But I think you're right. I think it is a kind of a fair comp. They have a kind of a similar kind of running way they run and kind of how they move a little bit. In addition to that, I liked his yak a little bit more than you did. I found him to be pretty dynamic and really like a running back at times, and how he runs with the ball in his hands, and just how hard he runs with the ball in his hands. Your points about the zone coverage, I think, are really well put, in that this is a guy that's going to just throttle up and destroy zone coverage. But when it comes to man coverage, I'm going to have some worries with him on that, necessarily about being as effective against those kind of defenses. But I think that especially against zone, him moving in and out of zones, getting up to full speed. You're in a zone defender. You're flat-footed. Here comes this guy into your zone. You got to pick him up. He's almost impossible to be able to pick up without him generating some separation from you once he gets into your zone, because he's just too quick getting into it, and he's at full speed. It's kind of like he can really accelerate from 0 to 100 that way, like you like your slots to do. But this is why we also see him as a full-time slot, really, and not a guy to play on the outside. It's where he's most effective. It's where he'll be really good, and he's built to be a slot in that way. I did put him into the second round. I don't think he's going to be able to play on the outside. Just don't see that in his game. And I like him a lot. Supposedly a really great leader in the locker room, Brendan. But sorry, I'm going to sneeze here. You talk for a second here.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so okay. Let's see, what can I say? What can I say that's interesting? All right, everybody, just pretend I said something really, really insightful and interesting. I lost my
train of thought there. I don't know what it is. I go, my allergies are fine, and then I go live, and the allergies kick in. So I don't know what it is, but it's just they've been destroying me lately. Yeah, I do like him, and I appreciate the fact he's a leader in the locker room, and everybody's like, man, he's that guy. He's an alpha guy. You can follow him, but it's not enough to me to move the needle to be tripling up on slots here. This would be one that'd be very frustrating for me to see us jump on this one in the first round, Brennan.
Yeah, I would be very confused, not because I dislike the player so much as I wouldn't understand what the story we're trying to tell is here. I would understand that, like, okay, we're getting another good player, but one of the few things we feel really good about the long term on this team right now is slot receiver. Now we're going to go get another one, and he's so similar to the one we already have when we just signed Cooper Kupp. Like, we're already kind of pushing it a little bit. I would just be confused about the story we're telling.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, the only thing I can maybe think of with this is that there's a silent intention within this that you're not looking to maybe sign JSN after this year, and that you're looking at, look, we don't want to pay $35 million a year for JSN. And the one thing that you can look at with Emeka, they're very similar players. That's true. There is one differentiating factor between them. And I'm not saying this is what's happening, Brendan, but I'm just trying to make sense of if they did it, right? Because it wouldn't just make sense on the surface if your intention is to keep both of these guys long term and be like, well, we're fine. Speedster, we don't need that. We're good. So I think there's a little bit of the blocking element Emeka provides. He and Elic Ayomanor are probably the two best blocking wide receivers in this draft. And the one thing that you do have in JSN's game that's a very, very major hole, of course, is the run blocking element. And so that could be a part of this puzzle, I guess, but I still don't think the math tracks or adds up.
Yeah, I will say, if it's that first thing you mentioned, that's going to annoy me like nothing else. Like at a certain point, you need to pay players. Like, come on, what are we, a mom and pop organization here? No, like it better not be that, is what I'm saying. That would get on my nerves like nothing else.
I wouldn't be happy by it. I'm trying to find an explanation for it that makes some kind of semblance of sense, but I'm with you in that I wouldn't be happy by doing this. This just feels like a little bit of a spinning in place kind of move if you make it in the first round to me. And people want to say they think he can play on the outside. I just don't think he can. I really don't. And even beyond, okay, he can play on the outside, Brendan. Where's he best? Yeah. This is the thing we got to come back to again, and I'm going to hammer on this because we've made this problem organizationally for so many years. We take a guy and we move him from where he's best to this other. Well, he can do this other stuff. Where is he best? He can do this other stuff. Where is he best? But he can do this over here kind of good. But he can do this great. This kind of good, this great. What would you rather have him do? Kind of good or what he does great?
It's what we went through with Ethan Posick, right? Ethan Posick, maybe he could have been an okay guard, but he was a center. Yeah. And we didn't play him at center until his 4th year in the NFL.
That's right. 100%. 100%. And he still has remained as a center and been a good center once he's left here. You know, he's one of those guys that John laments about. We've had good guys that have gone to other places and been really high paid. Yeah. Could that be that team target the fact that he's a center and a pure center and that's where he needs to play? So that's where you should probably be playing him. It's this has become an annoyance for me as this has grown over and over with too many players through the years that we've done this with. I mean, hell, even LJ Collier, you played him at defensive end for his first 2-3 years, right? What's he turned into? Defensive tackle.
Yeah, he's slid inside, which is something we talked about doing with him for years.
Right. You and I basically said, let's kick him inside. He's never going to be an edge. And they never did it here. They kept trying to, let's make him work as an edge. Let's make him. And so this would be more of the same of what this organization has done at times by taking Egbuka. And that's why, as much as anything, I think we're both out on this one.
Yeah, I would understand the plot of taking Egbuka because he's a good player, but I don't understand the story you're telling in terms of building a team that makes sense.
No, I wouldn't either on that. All right. Well, keeping it moving along here now. Let's get into now firm second round. I think, guys, there's a chance this guy could go higher in the first round, late first round, potentially. Receivers, I think on average, we see 6 receivers go in, not in their first round, but five receivers, I think, in the first round is like the average. This one's a little weaker class, though, so maybe not this year. But I'm not going to the guy I got on my board that I sent you, Brendan, but more of the guy that's on the kind of consensus boards at this point is the next guy up. And that's an outside receiver in Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State.
Yeah, this guy's moving on up lately, and I'm a fan. I really like Jaden Higgins. He's got the size. He's very close to being the same size as McMillan, actually, except he's got long arms as well. He tested pretty well, especially for a guy his size. Really explosive. Really good production these last couple of years for Iowa State. He's like I said, he's got the size and he's got the athleticism. He's got great hands, very few drops on his ledger. He's got great ball skills. His ability to find the ball in the air and make a play on it is top notch. Really good understanding of knowing how to use his size. He's really good at winning those contested catch situations. He can go up and get it. He's a pretty good route runner. He's also really good at tracking the ball in the air. You know, that Tyler Lockett ability to find the ball over your shoulder and then get to it so you can make a play on it. And I think he's just a really smart player as well. So there's a lot that I like. He doesn't have access to the full route tree because of his agility not being great. So there are going to be some routes that just are not really his routes to run. I don't think he's a big yak threat. didn't always play with the speed he showed at the combine. I don't think he looks as he looked up as fast on the field as he did on the track. And he hasn't really solved press coverage yet, although I think that can come. I think he's got the ability to beat it. It's just going to take a little bit of time here. So this is kind of one of my favorite guys here. I would love him in the second round. I would not even mind him in the late first. I'm really high on this guy. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, if we traded back into the late first, I'm okay on that. Especially you picked up like a third rounder, I'd be all right with it. I do go in that Drake London comp for some of the reasons and how you kind of broke it down, because I think if you listen to what you were just kind of saying on that, a lot of that stuff sounds very similar to a Drake London, coming out of USC. And the stiff stuff, he's kind of stiff, but he makes it work. And the contested catch and the ability to catch away from his body, the gluey hands, those type of things that Drake really had, just good footwork and getting himself into the right position to make the catch for a guy that's a bigger guy at 6'4". Sometimes those guys can't turn their body around or get themselves moved into the right position to, go make that grab. He gives you some pretty strong yak on just working hard. I felt like he dealt with physical coverage through the course of the route really well, able to get off that and find openings and clearings. Some deficiencies of the game there, a little stiff. Route running is just kind of okay to me at times with it. But big body guy that is going to make some catches, contested contact kind of catch situations. He's going to win a lot of those situations at the pro level, like we see with Drake London able to do, where you don't need as much of the separation. Same thing with like a McMillan on that. Just like how he gets off the line of scrimmage, just has a lot of really good traits, I think, to his game there, Brendan, without there being anything that I think stands out as just one real element outside of, just being kind of beastly when it comes to those contested catch kind of situations when he's got a guy really hanging off of him. But I like him as a player. I see him as 92% of Drake London. So London's a top 10 kind of wide receiver and where he went in the draft. I don't think this guy's quite as good on the contested catch stuff as he was. There's a little bit of a step backwards with him on that, but 92% of the rate in the late first round of Drake London ain't too bad.
Yeah, I can get behind that. And I think this would be the kind of guy that you would really, really like to maybe get with that pick you got trading DK Metcalf. I think if you're replacing Metcalf with Higgins, you did pretty darn well for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'd feel pretty happy about that trade-off if you could pull it off. But I don't think there's any way he's lost into the depths of the second round at this point. Sounds like
he's moving up. Like when I took my data, and this was a few weeks ago, he was 66 on the aggregate. I think now he's like in the 40s. So he's bumping on up there, man. Let me check and see where he is right now. He's 50 right now, dead on 50. So he's moved up 16 spots in like 3 weeks. So at this rate, he'll be very close to the first round.
Kind of wonder about potential of the Chiefs going back to a wide receiver again. They're probably going to look offensive line with that first round pick, but that's the type of team I could see maybe looking at him and liking him quite a bit.
Yeah. There are actually 3 kind of, to me, similar big-bodied receivers in that second round range of things right now. And I wonder who they would prefer of those 3 if they decide to go that way. Because you've got a couple, we're going to talk about a couple guys soon here, but I feel like there were 3 relatively big-bodied receivers that play somewhat similarly in this area of the draft.
Yeah, I buy on that. I think the Chiefs are probably going line though, as I think about it. They lost Thuney and their left tackle situation's a little bit dodgy. I bet they hammer that with their first. But I think somebody in the end, the first round, one of those playoff teams, that's at that end in that first round spot's going to just be too tantalized by what he brings, I think, at that point. Especially if they think he's a Drake London type, which, I've heard that comp thrown around in other spots too.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next second round guy. This guy I actually have higher on my list than Jaden Higgins. He's a draft crush, Brendan. I own it. You know what I mean? Draft crushes aren't, you don't do them because they're like intellectual or anything, right? It's like, you dig a girl and like, I just like her. I ain't going to be able to tell you why. I just like her. Don't make me explain. Why do I have to explain why I like her? I just like her. Yeah, I like Jack Besh, man.
Yeah, you have an immunity idol. You have your I just like him immunity idol. You play it a few times a year.
I like that. That's it. I'm bringing my immunity idol out. No one can judge me on this one, Brennan.
Well, I'll tell you, you're not the only one. This guy's been very popular with Seahawks fans.
He's so much fun, man. He's so much fun to watch, and I just feel like he's a guy you can grab with some depressed value a little bit for where he would be if he had given you 2 or 3 years of the same kind of production he did this year.
All right, so he's got a lot of weight to him. He's not super tall, but he is pretty well sized. Testing numbers were mixed, mostly more good than bad, though, I would say, especially for a bigger guy. pretty good change of direction skills for a guy who's 214. Really only had 1 year production, but it was a 1,000-yard season on TCU. Positives I had: wins consistently at the catch point with physicality and instincts. He's got great hands. He can bully defensive backs with the ball in his hands. He can just kind of run people over to get extra yards. He's got good ball tracking skills. His ball tracking skills are totally there. He's a skilled route runner, and I think he'll be pretty versatile in his alignment. I think he's going to be able to play different roles and do different things and be good at it. Now, he doesn't really separate that well from man coverage. He doesn't have that great speed or quickness to separate from man coverage. Doesn't have great short area agility or short area quickness. Press coverage does get to him a little bit. Probably not going to be much of a deep threat. And of course, you only have the 1 year of production. But overall, my impression of Jack Beck is that he's at least going to find success in the NFL as a possession receiver that can come through when you need him the most. He wins at the catch point with his strength. I'm not 100% sure that he's going to be more than that, but there's a really high floor here. I can't imagine Jack Beck not being at least a good player. And I would say late second for me, maybe even mid-second.
Yeah, I'm a guy that just thinks he's got a lot of similarity to Cooper Kupp. Your change of direction stuff, I think, is the notable part when you look at these two guys as far as where their differences really lie. Brendan is in that change of direction stuff, where Kupp, to me, coming out doesn't have the speed of a Jack Besh. To me, Jack's kind of a 4.45, 4.5 guy, maybe even as a speed wise, where Kupp was a 4.6 guy, I think was what he was tested at. But Kupp had the change of direction stuff. But this guy, everywhere else along the line, looks how he moves, how he gets in and out of his breaks, how hard he is to kind of pin down as far as the route running is concerned and where he's going. It's all very much echoes to me, mirroring of a Cooper Kupp. And so I think really the arrow's going up with this kid. He had a great freshman year there at LSU where he was actually playing ahead of guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who were on that roster at that time. You know, he was getting snaps ahead of them. And it's taken him a little bit of time to find his footing. He had the previous year there with TCU in his first year after transferring from LSU. He was injured that first year, so didn't get a chance in that first year to get that production. That's why there's partly only this 1 year of production that comes into play for him. But I like his yak as well. He's a really good yak guy. Really, another way he looks like Cooper Kupp with the ball in his hands when he's running around and how he kind of makes his breaks in the open field. He's a demon as a run blocker. Guy will put his hat on a hat and really get after it in that way. You mentioned you move all over the places in his alignment, probably mostly a Z and how he'll be worked at the pro level, but you can use him all over the place. So
right.
A player who I think just his arrow's going up, Brendan. And I think that, so much of the closeness is there with Cooper Kupp that just, to me, solidifies it for me.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys that he's a football player. Like, the testing's not great. You were maybe I was hoping he would be a little bit bigger than 6'1". That's a little disappointing to me, but at the end of the day, I feel like he's just a football player and he's going to find a way.
I agree. I think he's going to find a way to be productive at the next level, and he's going to be, at the very least, I think, a damn good number 2 wide receiver for somebody. One of those better number 2s that you find in the league, at least.
Oh yeah, I like it.
All right, keeping her moving on here through the second round. We've got the last guy for me that I have in the second round here of this draft. Brendan is a somewhat local guy here on the West Coast. Elic, I don't know how you'd have this last name where you could kind of give it that French feel, Brendan. Ayomanor, but I'm hearing all the announcers when I'm watching the tape on him. Ayomanor.
Yeah, I always watch tape on mute. I don't like listening to it.
I usually do too, but it started making me laugh because the guys all were Ayomanor. Like, okay,
I think he's Canadian, so he might be French Canadian.
Well, then it'd be Ayomanor, though, wouldn't it? Isn't that the Ayomanor?
Yeah. That's how I would probably do it now that I know he's Canadian. I looked it up, and apparently he's actually kind of new to football, which is really exciting about him. The fact that he's already this good as someone who is relatively new to the sport.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. No, he's a lot of fun as a player. Unique in this draft, too.
Yeah, pretty good size, pretty good testing overall. He got a good 40, some good explosiveness in his hips. Aggregate, when I took these numbers, had him right in the middle of the second round. Good production the last couple years. I mean, remember, Stanford is not a very good team. They don't get very good quarterback play right now. So when this guy is able to put up over 1,800 yards over 2 years, it's actually pretty darn good. So he's got above average size and above average speed, got great ball skills. His highlight reel is fire. Like if you watch his highlight reel, he makes some crazy catches.
Oh yeah.
Vertical threat. He's got technique with his route running that I think is pretty good. The technical elements of running routes are good. He's got high upside due to lack of experience, and he's also got good work ethic. So I think he's got a drive to get better, and I think that he will get better. He's a good blocker, and he's got a really good release package. So I have no doubt he's going to have no problem beating press at the NFL level. Now, there is going to be some development you have to do. He does drop too many passes. I think his drop rate is much higher than most of the guys we're looking at. His route tree is immature. It's going to take some time to really grow out. Like he can only run a few different routes right now. Doesn't have great short area quickness. I don't think his ability to use his size to his advantage at the catch point is where it can be. And he doesn't separate as much as you would like. He's another one of these guys that wins on contested catches a lot, partially because he doesn't get open as much as some of these guys. But I really liked this. I really liked him as well. Elic, I really liked. There's no guarantee he'll get better over the next couple of years, but I feel like he is. So I'd go early second round on him, honestly, and he's not that far away from the first for me. I don't think he's there, but I'm not that far away from it.
Yeah, I found myself kind of moving up and down all over the place with him a little bit in my evaluation, going back and forth on the tape to him. I mean, strongly built, really long arms, big old hands that he brings out, same kind of hands that Ted has, 10 inches, or really, he helps him as far as, especially one-handed catches. He really can just put a one-handed catch out there and rip it in there and pull it through. The point about the limited route tree is a part that worries me a little bit, mainly hitches, over routes, and go routes, and then he doesn't create a lot of separation on that limited route tree that he does then run. That does give me a concern a little bit, Brendan. I don't think that he's also giving you much of anything as far as yak goes. That gets me a little bit concerned with that, especially this is an offense that we're running now that's a little bit more built for wanting those receivers to provide that yak. I think he's a real monster down in the red zone and a threat down there in every way. I do believe that he is, if not the best blocking receiver in this draft, one of the best blocking receivers in the draft. Really like how he gathers in the ball. He's a natural catcher, but then like you said on the other side, we do have some of the drops. So there's a bit of a tit for tat for me with that on him, where it's like the good things I like about him, I really like, but then there's the deficiencies that are in his game that are also very real. Can a guy clean up his drops? Can the hands get better with time? Yeah. Can the route running get better with time? Yes. These things can improve, especially a guy that's new to the sport. That's what makes this to me a bit of a tough evaluation, Brendan, when I kind of throw it all out in the wash. I came down to more of a second round range for him. I can completely understand looking at him a little bit higher with that, hey, new to football, he's only going to continue to rise and get better and better the more he gets a chance to play. But I think there's a lot of rough edges around his game that you've got to hone in here. And there's some things that I think aren't going to come forward. I don't think the hands are going to majorly come forward hugely. I think they're always going to be something you're kind of dealing with a little bit. You're muted. Muted?
My bad. I didn't put him in my first round, to be clear. I have him as a second rounder. And I agree with everything you're saying. I think this guy has a better chance of getting better in these areas that he's deficient in than most players because of the fact that he is kind of new to football. Like there are players out there who are like 25 years old, like the guys who you draft out of BYU, they're always like 25. This guy has a much better chance of getting better over the next few years than those guys, just as an example off the top of my head.
I agree. I 100% agree with you there. And it's a valid, these guys that are new to the sport like that, they should get better as they get more time with it. I kind of see him as a Green Bay Packer type of wide receiver. He seems like that those are the kind of guys that they go for from wide receiver archetypes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm feeling it. I could see that for sure.
So late second round for me, early second round for you on Ayomanor. So we do now dip into the third round. Did you have some more vestiges of second round guys remaining?
I have one more guy that I'm looking at as kind of a late second, early third guy. So right on the line. So we can go ahead and just talk about him with this next group. But It was, and I struggled with this one a little bit, Tre Harris.
Okay. Yeah,
Tre Harris. Yeah, my issue with Tre Harris is mostly just the injury concerns. He's battled through injuries a decent amount in his career. But I like his size. He's got pretty good size. He doesn't have great speed, but he's really good at changing gears. He's got the ability to go, okay, 75% speed, 90% speed, 65% speed, and it throws defenders off. Got a big catch radius, solid ball skills, good size, and a willingness to use it appropriately. He's productive catching deep passes as well, despite being big and kind of slow, although I don't know how well that translates. He's got good yak skills to take short passes for big gains. He's a long strider, which actually helps him separate more than you would expect a slower guy to be able to. And he's a very physical player. There's some real good physicality here. I just don't know how much of this translates to the NFL. We're talking about a big play threat. Over the last 2 years, he averages almost 18 yards a catch. And then he's a slow. How is that going to work in the NFL? I don't know. He doesn't really separate that well sometimes due to, and he makes a lot of contested catches. The injuries are a real problem. I think he's missed time in both of the last couple seasons. His route running isn't great in terms of his actual breaking, the way he breaks off at the crucial point of the route. And I don't think his hands are great. So this one was hard for me to judge. I do think he'll be able to win jump balls, but the injury concerns had me knock him down to the late second.
Yeah, the injury concerns are definitely worrisome. A guy, though, that did have 3,545 yards, 29 touchdowns in his career at Ole Miss. So extremely productive as a wide receiver. He's got a bit of that AJ Green kind of angular build to him, kind of how you like receivers to be built if they were at him in a lab, from body style wise. Physical X receiver with explosive strides up the field. I found the route running to be a little bit more refined, I think, than you did on that side. Easy hands, large catch radius, and ability to sky. He'll attack the ball in the air like it owes him money. He runs tough with the ball in his hands, won't go down easy. He's got a stiff arm, and he'll lower his head to finish the runs, too, in addition to that. I thought that he almost feeds off of physical coverage. He almost likes it. Yeah, let's do this. I like this kind of fight. I like this kind of battle. He's capable as a blocker, not overwhelming. I do think that the 4-5-3, this is how this works sometimes to me, Brendan, where there's guys that test out that you go, okay, but when I turn on the field speed and when he's got pads on, because there's some guys who can go test fast and they're really, they fly, and then you put 15 pounds of pads on them and they're heavily reduced as that speed. They're not that same guy. And so the testing times are always good, but this is why teams are going to GPS data, for instance, over 40 times now as we move into the modern era, because you want to know what the guy is with the pads on. And I think with Tre Harris, when he puts the pads on, I think he's more of a 4-4 guy than he is a 4-5-3 guy, in my opinion. So I just like him all the way around as a player. I had my comp to him, Brendan, of Alec Pierce, the Indianapolis Colts wide receiver. I think he's kind of similar to him in a lot of ways with that. I don't think this guy's going to give you and a lot like Alex Pierce, rather than giving you the upside of 1,100-1,200 yards a season kind of guy, I think he's more of, especially the injury stuff, an 800 to 900 yard season receiving guy. But it could be a very capable guy in your receiving core, and especially a guy that can play the X, which is becoming a harder and harder position sometimes to find.
Yeah, there's definite value here. I would have put him in the mid-second if not for the injury concerns, but I think that's pretty legitimate and fair.
And I've got him right at the top of the third round. So that's where I've kind of stuck him at myself on that. All right. I like him, but yeah, I think the upside being just a tiny bit limited there puts him into the third for me.
All right. I'm digging it.
All right, we'll go to my first guy and one of the funnest wide receivers in this entire draft, bar none. You don't even have to have this guy be the highest guy on your board. You don't even have to be like, I'm in love with him. You don't even have to even be like, this is the best. Everybody loves turning on the tape and watching Savion Williams go. He is one hell of a fun player and as unique as you'll find in this draft.
Yeah, he is very interesting, and the Seahawks have met with him. They used a top 30 visit on him.
I want both Besh and Savion, Brendan. That's my draft egg by any means necessary.
Okay, I like it. Yeah. You get somebody with a high floor, and then you get somebody with a high ceiling.
There we go. Best of both worlds, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Savion Williams, claim to fame, he's big. He's big, dude. 6'4", 222. He's got pretty long arms. And he tested, he only did his 40, but his 40 was pretty good, especially for that size. So I would say that Savion Williams is bringing some upper level athleticism to the table here. Tremendous upside. Knows how to use his strength to grind out extra yards. Knows how to like bowl defensive backs over. He's able to accelerate past defensive backs deep downfield, so he is a legitimate 9-route threat. His ball skills show up in his highlight reel. If you watch his highlight reel, his ball skills look really good there. He wins against size, using his size against press and when he's in tight coverage. He knows how to use his size. And he's also going to be fun on gadget plays. NFL.com's comp for him was Cordarrelle Patterson. I feel like that's kind of his floor. I feel like the worst case scenario, he'll be a really fun gadget player like Cordarrelle. The issue being, is he going to elevate above that? It's hard to know right now because he's so raw. He's got ugly routes. He drops a lot of passes. He's also got some moments where his ball skills look really, really lost. Like he's got a great highlight reel. Highs are high, but the lows are low. Didn't produce very much in college. He has like less than 1,200 yards combined over the last 2 years. So in the right hands, this guy could be a lot of fun. This guy could be a smash hit at the NFL level. But you're going to have to work on this for a little bit. There's some stuff you really got to smooth out here. So I would put him in my early third because I love the upside. But be aware of there is a second part of this where none of this works out.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have a plan in place for some manufactured touches early on as you look to develop his route running. Guy, I think benches like 400 pounds, squats like 600 pounds. The freakish elements to him are just all over the place. The size, the well over 10-inch big hands, bigger hands than a Tet McMillan, for instance, on the outside. Brendan, he had a 90% contested catch win rate in college. Last year, 90%. There's nobody else in this draft that we're going to find. But like you say, on the other side of it, there's also the inconsistency where then he might drop the easy throw, where he's wide open, or it's just right to his hands. The points about the route running, I think, are very valid in that, he's a long way to go all the way around as a route runner and understanding pace and setting guys up and doing that. I think he does have a little bit more ability than what Patterson had. I think you're right about the floor thing, where Patterson just never was going to be a route runner at all, just had no upside to that development. This guy's got a little bit more, I think, in his bag to grow with that with time, I would think. The Patterson thing is valid, though, as far as being a guy at 6'4", 6'5", that's electric, absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. This guy is just so hard to bring down, just knows how to extend runs, and just he's got kind of I mentioned like Ariel Fannin and Brendan, where Fannin was kind of inverse than bow-legged, knees are rubbing together, and he's got kind of a cross-country style kind of gait to him. This guy is more kind of bow-legged, and then he kind of got like an ice skating kind of gait to him, where it's a little bit quicker on the feet as they're going with Fannin. It's more of that long, like your long-distance cross-country skiing a little bit. Kind of weird to watch these two guys like that, and then it just almost difference in the way they do it, yet they both are very effective with that yak ability. But I love this kid. Another one of my guys that I just really do favor in this draft. 400 of his 600 yards came by yak last year. 55 carries out of the backfield. In addition to that, being used as a running back at 6'5", and he looked good doing it. I love him. He'd be so much fun, Brendan. He'd make Sundays way better having this guy on your team, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I really, really would be into this one, and he's somebody that I've been putting in a couple of my mocks recently for sure.
Yeah, understandable why, man. I think that this guy's going to do some things at the NFL level. I don't know if you go, well, is he going to be a star? Is he going to be this? Is he going to be that? Hey, tremendously effective for you. Just get him some touches and let him go to work. And kind of a little bit like maybe like the Debo when he was coming out a couple of years ago. It's like, you get caught up in, well, does he run this route? Does he run that route? Does he? Like, yeah, the guy's just going to be very effective. Get the ball in his hands and let him get to work.
Yeah, I hope we get him, man.
I do too. Next guy up for me, another guy that the Seahawks have met with in this draft, a guy that's got echoes of former Seahawk players to me and certain parts of what he brings to his game. Jaden Higgins' running mate, Jaylin Noel, Iowa State.
All right, Jaylin Noel. Let me pull up the page again on him. Okay, so definitely undersized, 5'10", 194 pounds, baby arms too, absolute baby arms, 29 and a half. That's tough right there. Baby hands too, by the way, while we're at it. But he was one of the guys that tore up the field at the combine a little bit. 41.5-inch vert, 11-foot, 2-inch broad. So he's got crazy explosiveness. Good 40 as well. Good 3-cone, good 20-yard shuttle. So he's cranking out the combine measurables. It's so maybe he's our wide receiver Mike Mamula this year, or at least one of them. There are a couple others, but had a really productive 2024. Great athlete. His short area quickness is eye-popping. He's going to be really hard to hang with in man coverage. He's really dangerous with the ball in his hands. I think he's going to be a great return man in the NFL, if nothing else. I think he's going to add a lot of value there. He can separate from man coverage all day. He's not afraid of playing through contact, despite being so small. But you still have to worry about that size being a problem. I don't think his hands are that good. I think he drops too many passes. I doubt he'll be able to play outside at the NFL level. That seems like a bridge too far. His routes need to be cleaned up a little bit. There's a couple of little things I don't like with his route running. You're not going to get much blocking out of him, mostly because he is so small. And he only really had the one productive year in college. But he's really fun. I'm not completely convinced this is going to work because he is so small. But there's a lot of high-level tools here. I would put him in the 3rd round. I think he's worth it there.
Yeah, I've got him as the 3rd round as well. The struggle with this one, Brendan, for especially if the Hawks took him, is how much can this guy really play on the outside? You know, how much is that really viable for him with his size? And he was 70% out of the slot in college. And I've had a hard time with this recently, and looking at guys 70, 80% of the time you're in the slot, that you're going to be able to really work on the outside to the pro level past a smattering of snaps over the course of a game. I see him as kind of a Khalil Shakir type, the Buffalo Bill slot wide receiver. He's got a little bit of that Golden Tate lower half build to him, which really solid based on that lower half. But like you say, with the hands and the arm length, while I think the hands are really good to a degree, and that he can extend his hands out of way and he can make the tough catches, and he's got all of that capability, great ball tracker in the air. There is those times where I think those short hands bite him in the butt, and that he does have some drops where he just doesn't have the big enough mitts to pull him in. I mean, at 8.75 hands versus like Savion Williams that we just talked about at 10.5 inches. And think about that versus 8.75 and how much smaller that is. Now, well over 3 inches smaller as far as your hand size goes. That's very significant. And it didn't necessarily hold him back hugely in college, but I do just think it will kind of hold him back at the pro level. He's interesting, though, because I can see him having 3 different Seahawks receivers that he has parts of his game on in, Brendan. He's got Golden Tate's lower half, but he's not a yak guy like Golden Tate. They look, their lower half looks exactly the same. He's got a double move like Tyler Lockett, tracks the ball kind of like Tyler Lockett does in the air, you know, and that he's a guy with short arms, small hands, but just somehow finds a way to get his body in a position, even in track of defenders around him, and makes the catch. And then a little bit of Doug Baldwin in the competitiveness at the catch point, and just how much you feel a feistiness in the level and the way he plays. And this is why I think we probably met with him, is that there's a little bit of that where the team's being reminded a little bit of this guy of former players who've come through, and it's like there's that affinity for it. But unlike Doug, unlike Tyler, I'm not sure he'll be able to play on the outside.
Yeah. I did we meet with him? I hadn't heard that. Okay.
Yeah, we met.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I like some of it. I definitely like some of him, but I don't think he'll play outside. I have a hard time believing that. He's got 29.5-inch arms, man. Like, come on.
How many receivers do we have in this league that are operating with 29-inch arms on the outside? Maybe you could maybe go find one right now in the NFL, and I don't know if they're particularly effective at that size operating on the outside.
Yeah, I think D. Eskridge had longer arms than that.
I do believe that's right. I think at least 31, I think, is what he had, I want to say. Or 30.5 at least in that, 31 and something. No, he had more for sure. All right, keeping it moving here. And I did have a third round grade on Noel, kind of middle third round. Middle third round also for this guy. And this is a guy that's a lot of kind of a quiet fan favorite from Hawk fans. And that's Jaylin Royals.
Yes, Jaylin Royals, Utah. You holding up okay?
Sorry. I'm trying, man. I'm fighting it today for some reason.
Well, at least hopefully it'll have time to go through you before the actual draft. And hopefully by the draft, you're good.
I hope not. You know what's gonna happen too? As soon as we finish up today, it'll come to a complete stop. That's the Murphy's Law in this one too.
Yeah. All right. Pretty decent size. Really short arms for Jaylin Royals, though. Really good. Ran a 4.42 at the combine. Really good quickness too, by the way. A sub 1.5 10-yard split. Good production the last couple of years for Utah State. He's experienced playing inside and outside at Utah State, so he's got experience in the slot and outside. Pretty good release packages. I think he's actually pretty skilled in terms of beating press. He's got good ball skills. He's got the toughness to get extra yards. He's able to grind out yak by just bowling people over. He understands how to help his quarterback. When he turns around and sees the quarterbacks in a scramble drill, really good at going back to the quarterback and presenting himself. Good contested catcher, reads zone defense as well. Some of the issues, I don't feel like he played as fast as he ran on the track. He may not be able to do a lot of the outside stuff in the NFL because he's small and he's got short arms. He's not very explosive, I don't think. He's got good speed, but he's not explosive. Doesn't have great quick twitch athleticism, which hurts his ability to run routes. And he's not really a deep threat. He's not very productive deep downfield, I don't think. So he's a gamer out there. He's somebody who gives a lot of effort out there. I do wonder how some of this stuff translates. But I'll go. I went third round on him as well. I think the combine boosted him up a little bit. He ran faster than people expected. And that opens up some potential doors for him. But I ended up landing on the third round with him. I'm just a little bit worried about him playing outside at the next level.
I think that's valid. I mean, you might end up needing just to transition him into a slot, and I think he can be a very effective slot if that's where he's got to be as far as his final landing place goes. He's a yak guy with a running back's burst to me, Brendan. So I saw him a little bit like a Malachi Corley from last year, a little bit in that kind of same vein. Yeah. Really limited route tree, hitches, comebacks, over routes, bubble screens. He did show on these routes some real plus route running ability at times. I think he's got plus hands for a prospect. I think he really does attack cornerbacks, attack the ball in the air. Just a guy that really is going to go up and get the ball and do it with just a sense of kind of flair in that way. A good contact balance, a little bit of where there's the echoes of Corley to me in his game in that, where he can just bounce off a contact and keep the legs going. I do think he's going to be missing some long speed. You talked about the testing time. I think this is one of those guys I'd say feels more 4.5-ish, though, with a really good 10-yard split than he does a 4.4 guy with a good 10-yard split to me. So I don't know if the testing 40 time exactly added up to what I saw, from him on the field. But I think he can be, at the very least, he does get a guy that I think he can play on the outside, but if not, I know he'll be able to wash out to being a very effective slot.
Yeah. And, that's, there's something to be said for that. Slots are valuable, but again, my issue is slots are everywhere. So
they are.
I think that has to bring your value down a little bit. And outside receivers are not everywhere. Those guys are hard to find.
No, very hard to find. And again, 30 inches, how do you make that work on the outside at his spot? Especially again, because I don't think he's more 4.4. I think he's more 4.5 guy. So he's not just burning away from guys. If you're going to be a bit undersized on the outside, then you got to kind of have burner speed a little bit to make that work. And I don't think he quite has that. So a good chance he has to get kicked inside, but a real fun player. One of the better yak guys probably in this draft, quite frankly. And I liked him a lot, but probably not a Seahawks fit, I don't think.
Yeah. Not right now. I think anybody that's better meant for the slot is not really a Seahawks fit right now. So yeah.
No, probably not. Next guy up on my list, and I actually think I'm going to end up elevate. I'm going to put this guy actually ahead of the guy I had on my list. They're both in the third round right now, Brendan, but this is the guy that's been rising up my list. We've got to give him some love. Local guy. We can't be sleeping on this guy. I know you're a Husky, okay? So I know how hard it is for you with this, okay? I get it. It's not like a duck, but it's very close, okay? We got to give the love, though, man. We got to give the flowers to Kyle Williams. Washington State kid, another third-round guy for me, and I really like the tape on this guy.
Yeah. Kyle Williams, the NFL.com comp for him, I think, was Marvin Mims Jr. I kind of feel that. I can kind of see where that comp comes from. I think it's a good one. I think that at minimum, he'll be a great returner. I think he'll be great on kicks and punt returns, but I do suspect he will be more than that. He is undersized. Definitely a smaller guy, very short arms, good speed, really good production last year, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, big play threat who can get open deep down the field, excellent run after the catch skills. You get him the ball in the open field, watch out. Even though he's small and he has short arms, he's got a nice release package. So he knows how to beat it. I don't know if he'll be able to do it at the pro level, but at the college level, he could do it a little bit. Really good against zone coverage, really good at finding the holes in zone and sitting down. I don't think he's a very good route runner. I think sometimes he kind of dogs his routes a little bit, and there's not a lot of routes that he can run. And the size concerns me. He's not a good blocker. I think there's a lot of little nuances to the game that he doesn't do yet. But it's very fun to imagine him as kind of what Denver has with Marvin Mims, a great return man who can bust out big plays on occasion. I don't know if I would take him in day 2. I did end up putting him in my round 4, but I do like him. I just couldn't quite get him to that top 100 yet.
Yeah, I put him in my 3rd round. He's been a riser up my board. I really just like his tape quite a bit. I think that what stands out to me with him, and I'm not a fan of the Marvin Mims comp because the fact that Marvin Mims to me is a slot guy, and I do think that this is a guy that's going to be able to work on the outside. I know that the arm length is a little bit shorter, but I think his release package that you mentioned, his route running, I think his speed, and that he's a guy that I think is a 4.4 guy on tape, and that that can work as a bit of a plus speed guy. It's not a burner, but it's a plus speed point to bring, I think, to the field and what he brings. A lot of that goes to me with him of a Paul Richardson who once came through here. Not as light as Paul, not as kind of frail as Paul in that way, but a lot of that just, you feel the acceleration and the speed on the field in a major way, and it really stands out. He'll fight hard after the catch. Bender gets a hold of him. He's not going to do a lot yak-wise, but he is going to get, he'll maximize it. He'll get up the field. He'll use angles and whatnot to still envision to create extra extensions on his play. He's got about 6 plays, it seems like, this past year alone, where he just catches a bubble screen or a short little route and then just goes and houses it just by choosing the right angle to get up the field with the speed to go and clear the deck, as it were. I like his contested catch ability for being a little bit of an undersized guy. Does a great job with the ball tracking stuff. Just a guy that I think when I look at him, Brendan, this is the kind of guy that typically comes in a 5'9" package form. This is a Hollywood Brown kind of receiver, is typically the size. And I know it's only a couple of inches, but 5'9" to a guy that's a 5'11", he feels a little bit bigger. You tend to get these kind of packages smaller. And I think that that's going to allow him to be able to work on the outside at least a decent amount of time. But I can understand not being necessarily as hot to trot on because there are, size, length, arm length, that type of stuff's a little bit limited.
Yeah, I'm a little bit suspicious, but I still think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be valuable. And, we've talked about this before. Being a return man is about to be more valuable than it's been in a while in the NFL. So even if he's just a return man, that's something that you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be it could be a kind of a game changer this year. It's not being talked a lot about, but the return rules could really be changing a lot of the way the sport plays this next year in a major way. And so having a guy like that that's dynamic could be a very helpful hand, especially because that's something that the Hawks need right now.
Yep.
All right, moving along here. We've got a UNLV kid here. Very rare for UNLV to kick out wide receivers. He ran the 4.61 at the combine, Brennan, but then he did a 4.48 at his pro day. I do hear about I was listening to some people talking about this scouting wise, though, that there's like this kind of joke about these scouts that'll have guys that go to the combine and run these slow 40s, but they love the players. So then they get them out on their pro days, and then they click that clicker just a little bit slower coming off the line, maybe a little bit faster as he got done. Oh, look, 4.48. Look at that, guys. He's a 4.48. See, he's fast. He's not slow, guys. See, we can take him. Kind of wondered that with Ricky White when there's such a differentiation from 4.61 to 4.48. That's quite a wide swath there of difference. But what do you think of Ricky White?
I was pretty into this one until I saw the combine. Then I basically lost all interest because so much of his game is the big play, big vertical threat. And then when he ran the 4.61, I'm like, oh, okay. So he's a deep threat because he plays at UNLV and the competition's weak. But then he does that at the pro day, and now I don't know what to think, man. I'm really, really lost on this one. When I did my initial evaluation, I actually put him down in the 7th round because I was like, I don't want a vertical threat who runs a 4.61. Now he does that, and it's like, well, maybe I elevate him a little bit to like the 5th round. Like I don't know. I'm confused. I'll say what I can about him though. A lot of production over the last couple of years, over 2,500 yards over the last 2. Good against zone defenses. He tracks deep shots over his shoulder really well. He's really good at the catch point. He's got a lot of little tricks he busts out to win at the crucial moment. And I think he had like 4 punt blocks last year. So if you put him on the line on punts, he'll probably come up with 1 or 2. That seems to be like a skill of his. That's something we don't talk about very much.
No.
But that's an asset. That's something that could really help you. So he doesn't have a lot of play strength, doesn't really fight through contact very well. He's not very good shaking free against man coverage because while he looked fast, he doesn't necessarily have great reactive athleticism. Maybe slot only in the NFL because he is a little bit undersized, actually a lot undersized. But I don't know. Overall, I don't know what to think about this one anymore because of that difference between 140 and the other 40.
It's hard to say. And you never know what, if there was some, things going on with that testing time with those guys and how they were doing there at the pro day. But I would go back to the tape with him. And I think the tape is very impressive with him. Long striding, versatile receiver. I think he's got shades of Brandon Ayuk to his game. I don't want to say that's the comp. It's just to give the shades and that you can feel some of how he runs. I think especially when he's got some real nice bounce steps out of his route where, okay, he's going up full speed. He wants to cut out to do an over route. It's a bounce step and then he's to it. Or a lot of receivers, they got to do that little and then they go out. But with him, it's just one step and a plant, and then he can cut off that in a real smooth fashion, I think, that's going to, create separation at the next level because so many, I think, receivers have to kind of pitter-patter their steps or, throttle it down a little bit to be able to make those breaks. I liked him as a marvelous route runner. I think he can stop and cut on a dime, gives you a good yak. He's got a third of his snaps that come out of the slot, so there's a little bit of this that's like Jaylin Noel to me, where you hope he can play on the outside, but if you do have to kick him to full-time into the slot, he can be a very dynamic player from within there, I think, with his skill set. So you mentioned the special teams. That's a worthy part of mention, and I had on my notes as well. I just think that he creates pretty easy separation on his route running. I liked his hands. I thought those were good in addition to that. He's got a lot of good parts to his game, including being a real willing blocker on the outside as well. There's nothing that's going to just completely light the world on fire with this guy, but a lot of good and not a lot of like super negative deficiencies in his game. Even compared to the Noel guy, whose arm's much smaller, a little bit more undersized in what he brings, a little bit less yak. This guy gives you, I think, a little bit more of the good along those lines of it. I think that just maybe Noel will maybe be, if he goes to the slot, be more of a dynamic yak versus this guy having more potential to play on the outside. And then he'll be a good yak, but maybe not as dynamic yak as a Noel with that 10-yard split and whatnot.
So where'd you go with him? 4th round?
I went 3rd round as well with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got him in the 3rd round. So I've got him just behind Noel. I've got him just behind Royals right now. I go back and forth with those two guys as far as kind of flip-flopping them a bit. And then I'd have him, I think, ahead of Noel because I think that he is going to be able to, and I've been kind of giving this late thought versus the list I gave you a day or two ago because you're trying to refine this down. And I come down to it going, well, I think Noel does have to get kicked in the side. I do think Ricky White's going to be able to play on the outside a little bit at the next level.
Yeah. I know it's you don't necessarily want to do this, but I just couldn't help but lose a little bit of interest in Ricky White after that, after the combine. I was like, okay, I think I see what's going on here, but maybe that's not totally fair. I don't know.
Like I said, I heard that story here just recently, and it caught my ear where I was like, that's a thing. Like scouts are going out there and they're doing it. And it's like, there's a weird thing a little bit on the NFL with having a little bit of a confirmation bias thing going on, another thing I heard about that was mentioned that Daniel Jeremiah was talking about that he sees and he finds hilarious is you'll have these teams that come into this draft that are like, well stocked at a position like wide receiver. And then they'll come in and they'll be having conversations with other GMs and they'll be like, yeah, it's a real weak receiver class. It's like, well, is it a real weak receiver class? Or is that you feel good about your position? So you're looking at these others that you're trying to artificially inflate up because it becomes we come back to that value versus need thing and that draw. And it can even color you down to the scouting, not to when you get to the day of picking, Brendan, but it actually colors you where you're, just into that early process evaluation where it's like, well, we kind of need defensive tackles more than receivers. So maybe I'll kind of think of this wide receiver class as sort of weakish so I don't tempt myself a little bit. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I feel it. I don't know. I still wouldn't elevate him to the 3rd round, but I could get to like the 5th or maybe the 4th if I had faith that his speed will show up on the field better.
Understandable, man. 4.61 ain't gonna work if that's what his true speed is at when it's all said and done.
Yep.
Next guy up, one of my last guys here in the 3rd round. I've got Pat Bryant.
Right. All right. So Pat Bryant, you're definitely gonna like this guy a little more than I did. He's a bigger guy. He's not huge or anything, but he's got a little bit of size to him. Ran a 4.61 at the combine as well, so very slow. He does have some nice explosiveness, though. I think he's got some explosive moving skills. Pretty good at high pointing catches and competing through coverage. He uses little footwork and fakes on his routes to get open. I think his the nuance of his route running is good. He's come a long way over the last couple seasons as well. He was a very, very shoddy player a couple years ago, but he's worked really hard to get to where he is now. But he is slow. He is sluggish. I think that man coverage is going to make life really hard for him. He's never going to get open. Hands are, I'm not going to say his hands are bad, but I think they're inconsistent. I think he's ultimately in the NFL going to be little more than a possession receiver. And for a guy who's his size, he should be a better blocker. I want him to get better at blocking. I'd like to see a little bit more there. So I think that he'll be good at contested jump balls. I think he'll be a good jump ball player. I don't know about much else. So I ended up going 5th round on him. I wasn't too into this one.
Yeah, I might end up jumping down more to 4th round when it gets all said and done with him. I think he's got a lot of similarities to the guy that we just talked about, Ricky White, to be honest with you. I think that they do a lot of the similar kind of stuff with the route running and just being a fairly solid route runner, a good hands. I think that you might find with low sometimes drop rate, but some of that's from his ability to go out there and make attempts on catches other receivers wouldn't with those contested catch situations where he's full extension out. And he's just got a great concentration. He's like an eagle that's dropping down to go pick a freaking fish up out of the lake when he locks in on the catch. I mean, he is just, he's locked, clicked in. He's going to be in the right position and place to go make that grab and doesn't care what happens to him. You could be knocking him around. You can be beating up. You can punch him and he's still going to go and make that catch. It really did stand out. I think he's got some vice grip-like hands out there that he really does utilize. That's where I do have a little bit of hope that maybe the lesser of the speed, his contested catch stuff can get him around a little bit on the outside with it, but very explosive from a straight line standpoint as well, which some of his other testing numbers, do indicate. Probably will drop him down more into 4th round when it's all said and done where I stand on him, but a guy that I think will be able to work on the outside if he does work.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to play outside. I'm not too worried about that. I could see him becoming like the contested catch guy. But yeah. I don't know. Overall, I didn't see enough to get excited about.
Understandable on that. We're definitely getting into the dip phase here for sure with some of these guys. Next up is Tory Horton, Colorado State guy.
He's got that name that makes me feel like I have dyslexia or something.
I know. I know. I don't want to say Tory. I keep wanting to say something like Tony or. Yeah. This doesn't look right to me for some reason.
Yeah, it's like remember Tony Sperano? That was a name that always made me feel like I had dyslexia.
Yeah, that's another one for sure. But this is an interesting one, isn't it? You got to do a little bit of advanced math here with Horton to a degree.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. He's got pretty decent size, pretty decent testing numbers. Had a very, very disappointing 2024 for pretty obvious reasons. But he was very productive in 2023, almost 100 catches. Very good combination of size and speed. He's a great route runner for Colorado State. His ball skills are strong. He's got great hands. Surprising ability to make plays with the ball in his hands. He doesn't look like he'd be a great yak guy, but he finds a way. He's really good against zone defenses. He finds the hole in zone and sits down and waits for the ball. He's a hard worker. He is lean. He's definitely more tall than he is big. And he'll get out-muscled a lot because he's not very strong, needs some more play strength. Contested catches, not so great for me. Hard to imagine him playing outside with his arm length, and he also doesn't have a good release package. And he missed most of 2024 with an injury. I don't think there's anything remarkable about Horton, but there's a lot that he brings to the table that I like. I think that he's going to be good in a lot of areas. I think he's going to find a way to make this work. I'd say late 3rd round for me. I think there's enough going on for me to take him in the late 3rd round, as long as he's going to come back from that injury. Fine.
Yeah, the injury stuff is the big key with him, that he comes back and he's healthy off of that. But boy, did he have some production in college. I mean, 3,600 total yards receiving in college is nothing to shake a stick at. I really like he's got a patented move. It's kind of a hesitation cutback, and he can use it either when he's route running or when he's got the ball in his hands. But it works on both, either to create separation in his route and get him open or to extend the run after the catch, kind of stuff. I am a little bit worried about the speed. I do think it's a tad below average on tape. I don't think he's running away from anyone, but he is a good route runner. Strong hands catcher, fortitude in contested catch situations is great. I mean, he's going to make those grabs. Good leaping ability, which also just helps him out on that side of it. The arm length is tough there, but the catch concentration stuff and the leaping ability does work to kind of offset that, I think, and which is where I do have a little bit more faith now that he is going to be able to work on the outside. Kind of gives him that little bit of an equalizer, I think, with the 37.5-inch for you feel that with him on the field at times when he's out jumping guys, especially 5'11" corners. Corners might be a little bit smaller than him. I think he's also got nice punt return ability. That lateral unpredictability and that hesitation, Brendan, carries over to him as a punt returner, and a part that we have a little bit of a need for here. So it could make him an interesting guy. Smart working through zones, understands where to sit down and where to find those cracks and holes. And then an interesting part with him, Brendan, you mentioned about Ricky Weidenblock and punts, but with this guy, 5 of 6 for 150 yards when used as a trick passer on trick plays in his career.
I think I remember that. I didn't make note of it, but I think I remember that.
Yeah, kind of 5 of 6 for 150. That's got to be one of the all-time best college passing lines there is.
Yeah. We have Tyler Warren at home.
Exactly. But I do see him as my last guy in the 3rd round, and that's where I've got him kind of set at. But fun player, and maybe a guy that you're able to take advantage of there because of the fact that he had that final bad year, and you're able to pick him up there. If he'd had the 3rd final season, hell, Brent, if he goes out and puts another 1,000-yard season up, that's 3,000-yard seasons in a row. He's probably a 2nd-round pick at that point.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So, yeah, I'm a fan. I like Horton. It'll drive me crazy to have to say his name all the time if he's here, but I'll get over it.
I know. I'll be struggling right there with you on that one, so you're not alone.
I keep wanting to say Tory Holt because I remember, of course, Tory Holt from the Rams. But it's not. It's Tory Horton.
Horton. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the Holt, or you just don't want to. There's something you want to do, not quite pronounce it that way. You want to add an extra letter or something. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. All right, well, moving in the 4th round for me, and this is a guy that I'm kind of quiet on as anybody in this draft. At wide receiver position, I think I'm just lower on him than some others I think might be, and that's going to be Isaiah Bond, the other Texas wide receiver.
Right. I did end up putting him in my 3rd, but he is a late 3rd for me, so we're pretty close. Let's see here. Very small, like one of the smallest receivers in this class. He's got good speed. Although I'll tell you, he did himself no favors by overhyping himself, talking about running like a 4.2 flat. Like anything he did after that was going to be a disappointment, even though he did fine. Let's see here. Not huge production in his college career. He had 540 yards last year. So obviously he does have good speed. He's very fast and he's got great acceleration. Defenses have to be afraid of him. Defenses have to live in fear of him just taking the top off at any point. He's got good yak skills. He's really hard to wrangle down. He's going to be a really, really good yak threat. He's got good hands, and I think his technique as a route runner is pretty good. I think mostly, though, projecting him to the NFL is kind of theoretical because he wasn't a super prolific player at Texas. Physicality eats him up. If you're physical with him, there's not much he can do. Very undersized. I feel like he runs all of his routes at 100 miles an hour. He needs to learn how to shift gears and pull it back a little bit. And he provides a small target zone for quarterbacks. There's not much of a catch radius here. He's so small, and he's got tiny arms.
Tiny hands.
Yeah, tiny hands too. He is one of the smallest receivers in this class. So I think the theory is good here, but I don't know about him succeeding in the NFL in practice. So right now I see him as like a vertical decoy and a fun yak player. If you're going to get anything more than that out of him, you're going to have to, hope that you're going to have to wish upon a lucky star here a little bit. So I ended up going late 3rd. I still think there's a lot of talent here. I just kind of, he's not quite at that Tank Dell point of it, but he's not far off, where I also just feel like he might break.
Yeah, it's a guy I'm quiet on. I think he's small and he kind of plays small. I think he's going to project to being more of a slot than he is going to be a guy that can play even Z. I see him kind of as a poor man's Jaden Reed. Not as good anywhere near, but in that same kind of camp. Dynamic, physical with the ball in his hands, shows off keen open field vision, diamond sharp cuts to extend quick throws in space. That's where I really do think he can be a functional slot in that way, but I just don't know about outside. I think he almost sometimes seems like he gets faster with the ball in his hands. And extension on catches, catching the ball out away from his body. Not as comfortable doing that. Route running is okay. It's somewhat like he's a guy that can just cut really sharp and move really suddenly, more than it is that he's like, got kind of a dancer's rhythm to him and how he runs his routes. More just like, I'm really fast and I can really stop and start and cut really quick, and it's just a bit of a difference between it, putting into practice and just having it kind of in your toolkit. So a guy that I'm just not as a big on with him on that. I'd see him kind of limited on the upside, and I without coming to specifics on it, just walked away with the tape on him, just feeling a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, I couldn't get too excited about him either. I guess based on our conversation, I like him a tiny bit more than you do, but he's just so small, man. It feels like maybe he'll be like a gadget player more than a consistent down-to-down player.
Yeah, I just don't see the outside stuff, especially with him, and that's where Texas was able to use a little bit of that with him. There's a lot of the stuff with the Texas offense too, where he's at the forefront of that. I don't like the Texas offense with Sarkisian. A lot of times, it's effective, it works in college, blah blah blah, but it's not a great offense for really developing pros or really getting great evaluations sometimes on some of these receivers. And like with him, with some of the bubble screens and tunnel screens and just pop passes on drag routes, you're not having him always just do receiver like stuff at the next level they'll be doing. You're not going to manufacture that much stuff for him at the pro level to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm at the right point, I'm okay with it, but I'm not a big fan.
Well, keeping it moving here, we've got another slot wide receiver here for me in the fourth round, or fifth round for me. Looks like you might have him up a little bit higher than me on this. I know a lot of people do like him quite a bit. Xavier Restrepo of Miami, the 5'10" kid with the 4.8 40. What he ran in, I believe, at his pro day.
Yeah, I did my evaluation before that. So I don't know what to think now. So he's definitely a slot guy. He's got very short arms, some of the shortest arms we've ever seen at the receiver position. He's been productive the last couple of years, no doubt about it. He is a really good route runner. He finds creative ways to separate without top end speed, which a lot of slot receivers have to do, in fairness. He works very hard to help his quarterback. He's one of those guys that's really good at uncovering and running back to the quarterback to help him. He's a good blocker out of the slot, and he can work through physical defenders. But yeah, with that 40 time, I think I am kind of now more in that round 5 area with him, honestly. I think you have to dock him for that. And he's too small to win contested catches. I feel like he's already capped out as a player. I don't think there's much room for him to get better than he is right now. And honestly, there are a couple of drops on his ledger. Like, he does drop more passes than you would hope. Like, when you're this limited, you can't be dropping anything to make up for it. So I initially had him in my 4th round. Now I think I'm taking him down to the 5th because I'm sorry. You can't be running a 4.8 40.
No, it's going to be hard to make it work at that. I think he is a bit faster on the field than the 4.8, but I don't think that he's fast. And I don't think it's like, well, he's a 4.5 guy that tested 4.8. No, he's probably, 4.65, 4.7 is about where he is on the field. Great spatial awareness on this guy. Can feel defenders around him in zone and where to get in and sit down in zone. I mean, he's the ideal slot to read option routes and to feel that leverage. If you pair him with a smart quarterback, especially, would be great for him at the next level at the slot. Two guys that can be kind of on that same page, and real competitive guy, real good after the catch, creative after the catch, finds a variety of different ways to just kind of extend the run. But yeah, the hands can sometimes have some drops peppered in there a little bit on that. He makes some really great highlight catches in addition to that, where the guy just will really get the most out of his tiny little size, his tiny little hands, his tiny little arms. I mean, he will extend the hell out of that thing, like dislocate his arms to get the catch out there and made. And just understands really ball tracking and getting his hands in the right place to make the catch at times on catches you wouldn't expect it. But there's no way he's playing on the outside. He's a slot guy at the next level. And I don't even think even in the 5th round, this isn't even the 40 time. I just don't think in a league where we're having so many good slots coming through and they're really capable and good and aren't limited as much as he is, I think he's going to have a hard time cracking through even as a starter in this league.
Yeah. I think I may end up docking him to my 6th round as well at this point. There's just not much there anymore.
Well, Another guy we'll move on to here. I have in a 4th round, not 5th round, but another guy that I do kind of sometimes want to push into the 5th round, and a guy that I feel like I'm also a little bit quieter or lighter on than a lot of people in this draft, because there's a lot of people that like him a lot, Brendan. There's a lot of people that, the thing that they want to say about this guy is, ignore this, ignore that, ignore this, just turn on the tape, ignore this, ignore the 154 pounds, turn on the tape. Do I got it wrong here, Brendan? Do I just need to turn on the tape with Tez Johnson, or is there some concerns here?
I don't even know if I draft him, honestly. Like, you've got to be kidding me. 154 pounds? Like you can't be serious. I think kickers weigh more than that. I think there are kickers that weigh way more than that.
Yeah. People are trying to sell that this guy can play on the outside, Brendan. Yeah. I'm hearing people online trying to play, he can play outside. I go, what are you talking about?
Like, do you want to see a man die in front of 60,000 people? Is that your goal here? Because if that's your goal, then okay, you're trying to bring back the days of the Roman Colosseum where people would get really excited about watching a man die. But if you don't want to watch a man die, I don't know why else you'd want to get this guy. I'm sorry, but 154 pounds, yeah, like not a chance. And he's not even fast. Like, it'd be one thing if he was running like a 4.25 or something, then I would be like, okay, at least maybe he'll run away from the people who are trying to kill him. But he ran a 4.51. Ran a 4.51. Like that's not even close. Not even close. So look, credit where credit's due. He was a very efficient receiver at Oregon. He's got open field moves that are difficult to deal with. He did have some good testing numbers. He's explosive. He's a pretty good route runner. I think he's got some good ball skills. But at best, he's slot only. There's no way this guy's playing outside. There's just no chance. I don't even know why people are talking about it. And 4.51 is unacceptable for a guy this small. And I don't think his hands are that good. His hands are okay. And how many easy catches does he get from that Oregon system? How easy is his life from the Oregon system? Like, you can forget about this guy ever making a contested catch, by the way. Like, contested catches, forget about it. So I put him in the 6th round. I don't even know if I do that. I might not even draft this guy just because I don't think he's going to survive. I mean, look at Tank Dell. Tank Dell, his career is almost over already, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that we've talked about last couple of years and warning about these wide receivers that are coming out smaller and smaller and smaller and saying, look, you guys, it's the same thing with the quarterbacks that are 6'1" and weigh 185 pounds. And that it sucks, but you do have kind of some size requirements in this sport to be able to survive. And, what happens when Kenneth Grant falls on top of Johnson on a play? Are all of his ribs going to break? I wonder with Dell, it's like he gets injured. And I know it's not injured on necessarily like a guy falling on him, but it's just like when you're that kind of frailly put together, it's like in a sport where you're getting hammered and banged around, and your body's getting knocked here, knocked there. It feels like you're easier to be broken. And your points about where the limitations are just can't be limitations to his game, like you talk about the catch stuff. You need to be super solid hands if you're going to have some of the limitations from speed with your size stuff to it. But you're right. The hands kind of come and go. He's a body catcher at times, and there's a lot of easy manufactured touches. And so the 4,000 yards of career receiving is cool, but how much of that is manufactured in that production that he's had there at Oregon? I think he's got great stop and start. I think he can be an effective slot if he can get around on the size stuff, but this isn't a guy that's going to be able to gain 10 pounds at this point. Where's he going to go? It's going to go 165, and now he's a 4.6 guy out of the slot. He needs that suddenness. He's going to need that change of direction, the 3-cone time at 6.65. He's going to need that stuff to do whatever he's going to get done at the next level at his size. But purely a slot guy with some concerns and worries about him making it work there at that size, because we don't have a lot of baseline of a guy's 154 pounds in the slot making it go. You got to be kind of tough down in there. You usually got to be a little bit, if anything, kind of have a little more weight, I would say, at times on you in the modern era to be able to survive down there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So Tutu Atwell is about the only guy I can find that is about this light. He was 155. So this guy's lighter than Tutu Atwell.
Right. And both in Atwell's case and Dell's case, you have two guys that are a little bit more burners from the position. So, okay, they've at least got the speed to counterbalance that, and he doesn't have that. And that's going to be a big time detriment for Tez.
Yeah. So I just really have I know some people, they're probably looking at him kind of like the little engine that could, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if a guy like this could make it? Like if he overcame and actually found a way to be successful in the NFL at 154 pounds. But I'm sorry, there's just it's too much. It's a bridge too far. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He is the smallest wide receiver in terms of weight over the last 25 years at the combine. The smallest. Tutu Atwell was 1 pound heavier. Aaron Lockett, there was another Lockett out of Kansas State back in 2022. And then there was JJ Nelson out of UAB, who was 156. Yeah.
So those guys that have been around that size still weren't able to be effective receivers. I wouldn't count on it here with him either on that side. It's just there are, like going on the roller coaster rides at the parks. You got to be a certain height to ride these rides, or you're going to slip out and fall out and land on your head and sue. Your family will be suing the roller coaster company. So
yeah.
We got a couple donations here. Upo on your side of it with the $10 dono. Upo, sorry, a little late on acknowledging, but thank you for the $10 donation. He says, I'm starting the lobbying now for Seahawks drafting wide receiver Nick Harbor next year. Bigger, 6'5", faster, 4.24, and better hands than DK Metcalf. Thanks for all of your work, guys. Appreciate you, Upo. Thank you for the $10 donation. Do you know much about Nick Harbor? I haven't had a chance to take a look at him.
Well, I think he's 19. I'm not sure if he can come out next year. I'll have to look into that. But he's South Carolina. I do know that much, South Carolina. But I'm looking at his wiki right now. Yeah, he's 19, so I don't know if he can come out or not. But there is some reason to believe this could end up being a big guy in the draft whenever he comes out. This is one of those all-time physical specimens.
And they've got Lenore Sellers there, isn't that the kid out there? South Carolina quarterback coming along too out there.
Oh yeah, Sellers. Let me check that and make sure that's right. Lenore Sellers.
There we go. Okay, so he's going to have a good quarterback to throw his way too there, Upo. Boy, get a guy like Harbor in Seattle. That fits, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. That's a last name that would be perfect on top of being a great player. Perfect fit for the city as far as name goes.
Yeah, this quarterback class, man, I'm telling you, this quarterback class next year.
I think Sellers is super young. I think he's like uber young.
Sellers is available to declare next year. That doesn't mean he will.
No, but you're right. If that helps, man. And we keep coming back. You're right. We come back to this class next year, and it's just like, it's why we don't draft this year. There's so many tasty guys next year. It doesn't have to be, well, it's all about Arch. And if you can't get Arch, then you're not getting anybody. No, there'll be a lot of guys worthy, better than these guys next year, to where you can go move up in a first round and target maybe the third or fourth quarterback in the draft, and that guy's still going to be legitimate. Like, he might be better than any of the guys coming in this draft, right, Brendan? Like the fourth guy you go for, like, okay, Arch is gone, Aller's gone, but you could be getting the fourth guy like a Klubnik next year and saying this guy's talent's better than Cam Moore, better than Shadur Sanders, better than Jackson Dart.
Nico,
the
Tennessee guy,
the Randall Cunningham guy.
Some people really like Malachi Nelson, the UTEP guy. I don't know if that'll last or not, but right now he's actually the top quarterback on the aggregate for next year.
Okay. Let's go.
Miller Moss, who transferred from USC to Louisville, has a little bit of sauce with him.
Caden Salter, the Colorado transfer that they've got there, taking over for Shadur.
Yeah, I'm going to give Nussmeier a chance. I know he was a little disappointing last year.
Let's go. For some of the former coach.
Connor Wegman fell on his face last year, but maybe he'll redeem himself.
Connor had a rough one last year. It wasn't pretty. He's got the tools, though. Kid's very toolsy.
Yeah, Austin Mack, former Husky commit recruit who transferred to Alabama with DeBoer. If he plays really well this year, he could apparently declare, and he's very talented. He's like a 5-star. Let's
go. Yeah, that would be. Let's wait this out, John. Just stay a little more patient on this one. Don't reach for one of these guys. It's you'll be sort of lukewarm on by next year. Go get one of the true blue ones next year, and you'll be happier for it, I bet.
I'd agree with that.
I'll add them onto my list. Upo, one of the fun parts here as we wind down this kind of draft coverage, as we start with me and Brennan, it's you turn the page immediately and you already start getting your names associated to the guys, especially those guys that returned back with the NIL and didn't come out this last year that we had kind of looked at. So I'll throw them onto my list, and the scouting on next year starts, basically the day after the draft Foley finishes up, you're on right into the next and going. You have to, Brendan, don't you, to kind of get the preparation right on these guys?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some people are going to be very annoyed when I do it, but probably within the first few weeks of the draft being over, I'll post like a way too early Seahawks 2026 mock draft. And, that stuff doesn't appeal to everybody, but it has appealed to some people, right?
Yeah, I think it does. And no, it's just like these shows. People that do like it really like it. And we love this. This is why we love this sport, is that there's so many elements to pay attention to and keep in mind and kind of on that side of it. And the thing that me and Brendan have really learned with this is that the sooner that we can get ahead of the process, especially getting the previous year's tape looked at before the oncoming season, the much better of an outlook of the player that we get when it all comes down to it.
Yeah. It's like, Marvel, and they're announcing their movies 5 years in advance sometimes. And for some people, they just like go, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Shut up. Just make movies. Don't stop doing this shit. But for some people, they're like, oh, cool. I have a roadmap for the next 5 years.
Yeah. And the people that dig it really dig it, man. Mm-hmm. But Upo, thank you, man. I appreciate the $10 donation over on Brendan's side of that. And very kind of you. Kevin Mullen, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, I like XR Miami guy, benched 17 times and a better blocker than most wide receivers in the NFL. Will need that bully to fill the DK shoes. Can I send dad jokes for day 3 streams? Dad jokes are always welcome on day 3, because we're always, by that point, we're getting loopy and holding on for dear life, especially as you get into late day 3.
Yeah, we're getting cooked by that point. Like I did my free agency streams during the first week of free agency, and by day 5, it's so dead. You're just like, oh, man, I really hope something happens to make this stream more interesting, even if it has nothing to do with football.
Yeah, that was good on you to be able to hang through the 5 days, because I got through the 3rd and I was like, I'm good. We've covered it. So, and especially the Hawks being as kind of quiet as they were with that. Kudos to you for rolling through for the full 5 days. I like the XR Miami guy. What does he mean by that?
Restrepo.
Oh, Restrepo. Okay, my bad. Xavier Restrepo. A guy bench 17 times, 225. Better blocker than most wide receivers in the NFL. He could catch on. I could see him catch on. And I'll say to Kevin, the 4.8 stuff is not what you see from him on the field. He is more probably 4.65-ish guy. And that's okay for the slot as long as you're super uber quick, which he is. So he might work at the NFL level. It's a little concerning, but his tape is really good. He's got multiple years of really good production out there at Miami, even before Ward got there. So he's an interesting guy. I can see liking him. And I don't know if he'd be on the Hawks radar on that as it goes with it, but he will be drafted for sure.
I think he is a good blocker, especially for a slot receiver. I don't know if I'd say that he's a DK Metcalf replacement. So I mean, there's not a lot of comparisons you can make there.
He's more just, I think, the bully side. He's saying he's like a bully in his blocking. Maybe that's fair on that side of it. Yeah. But thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the donation. You're very kind of you. All right. Well, let's keep this rolling and moving here. And we'll go to a guy, got a couple guys here that you brought up on your list. We'll start out with Ty Felton of Maryland, outside wide receiver.
All right, let me grab this one. Yeah, okay. So little undersized, probably mostly going to be a slot fit, but had a really, really nice combine, very explosive, very fast, good production last couple of years. Very, very fast in a straight line, really good on vertical routes, really good at running down deep balls, tracking it into his hands over his shoulder. Very hard to deal with after the catch as well. Really dangerous with the ball in his hands. Pretty good route runner, I'd say, as well. He's got some little tricks in his route running bag to throw defenses off. Good hands. He aligned all over the place at Maryland. He was lined up, X, Y, Z, slot, outside, wherever. And he's got explosiveness. It's just press coverage is going to eat him up a little bit. He gets bullied at the point of the catch. I feel like his spatial awareness is sometimes a little bit lacking. Like he doesn't have great awareness of what's going on around him on the field. And he's not going to be a good blocker at the NFL level. I think late round 3 is where I landed with him. I liked him a little bit more than most people. I think he's going to be a really good playmaker. There are just going to be some frustrating limitations here.
Yeah, I think he's a good straight line speed guy, and certainly you can take the top off the defense and threaten corners in that way. That there's just some limitations to him with me. I think the change of direction is not the greatest. I think press coverage does give him some issues at times. Good ball tracker, solid route runner, I think overall with that, but again, little limited there with the route running because of the change of direction stuff on that side of it. Doesn't give you anything as a blocker, and there's definitely a latency with him when it comes to changing directions. So I think that the testing times too are a little bit of misnomer versus where he is on the field versus a player. I think he's more 4.45 guy. I think he's more 1.55, 10-yard split guy. I think that does change a little bit the outlook of him a little bit on this, especially with the 30-inch long arms. I kind of find him as being a guy that might end up being more of a tweener to me. We're not quite good enough to be a slot, not quite enough length on the outside or change of direction on the outside to work either out there. So I did ding him down into more the top of the 5th round for me.
Okay. So that's going to be one of the ones we're just a little bit different on, but that's I can understand that. There are some real problems there. And I might be a little over my skis here, but I just really like his potential as a playmaker with the ball in his hands.
You're gonna get over your skis on a guy going 4.37 with a 1.51 10-yard split at 6'1" ain't the worst places to do that with. So I get that completely. Next guy up you had on your list was Jaylin Lane, the Virginia Tech kid.
Yes, Jaylin Lane, Virginia Tech. So another really small guy. He does have a decent arm length, though. He's 191 with 31 3/4 inch arms, which is not too bad. And he's another guy who tested really well. Very fast, very explosive, great change of direction. So he was one of the stars of the combine, and I think elevated himself beyond where he was. He was at a point where people weren't even sure he was going to get drafted. Now I'm pretty confident he is. Great pure athlete. He can blow past defensive backs with his speed. Really good yak as well. He's going to make big plays with the ball in his hands. You can get him the ball on those bubble screens, and he'll just go. He's got a big catch radius for a player of his size. He's really willing to sell out and go rescue a poorly thrown ball. And he should be adding a lot as a punt returner as well. He doesn't have great route running yet. There needs to be a little more nuance to his route running. Spatial awareness is also a little bit lacking. He doesn't fight through contact, doesn't really have a great release package, and he never really got to a place where he was really productive. He's way too talented to be a guy who has like 1,000 yards combined over the last 2 years. So a lot of potential, a lot of traits that you rarely find. He just feels really raw to me, like he's got a lot to learn. I already know I'm going to regret taking him in the 4th round, but I'm still going to do it.
Yeah, he's always a toolsy guy that's raw. So if you can trust in your ability to rough out the raw sides of him, then he can tap into what has got a lot of physical potential that's really interesting to look at. The speed's legitimate on the field. I don't know if he's quite as sudden as a 1.50 10-yard split, and that I felt that from him. I think it's more kind of build up speed sort of guys a little bit. I think how he rolls a little bit there. The route running is really rough, I think, all the way around. There's a lot of kind of manufactured touches to let him really utilize his run after the catch. Versatile to where I think he can play outside, inside, gives you a bit of that to it. Just there's not a lot of refinement to him as a receiver. It just feels rough out there. It just feels like sometimes robotic, and that there's just not that guy that's just run so many routes and is just second nature, and he can control, his acceleration in and out of his breaks, and just none of that is what you feel from him. It all is just a little bit rough for me, but the raw goods are legit. And, if you can't teach those. So if you can refine down the things where it is rough, get the hands a little better, get the route running a little better. He gives you the yak, he gives you the explosiveness, he gives you the versatility, but I did have to put it in the 5th round because I think there's a long way to go to get there.
Yeah, and I can understand why. I even acknowledge I'm going to regret taking him into the 4th round, but I can't resist, man. He's such a good athlete.
Well, hard to find guys that are running 4.34 with a 1.5 10-yard split, then jump 40 inches, 11-foot broad jump. These are all really, really elite kind of testing times, But that 3-cone, the 20-yard shuttle, which show the short area stuff I'm talking about on the change of direction, that's what you did feel too on that side of it with him on the field. But the raw goods are legit, and there's nobody with maybe as good a raw goods in this draft as maybe a Jaylin Lane type. So if you can, you can get it fixed, if you can get the route running good, the hands better, just get him way more refined. He can certainly give you a lot of physical potential.
Okay.
All right. Well, we got I think it is our last guy here on our list today.
Yeah.
Want to say?
That's what I have as well. Everyone else I have after this guy is 5th or later.
And this is a guy that I've got two of these guys in the draft with this guy, another guy right with him on this, Brendan, though this guy did have better production this year. I'll give him that. And I do have a higher on than the other guy, but I think they're similar guys and guys that give you good value, actually, Brendan, even if you have them as later round guys or fourth round guys, whatever you might have them as, there's some value here to be had where I think that there's some minimum floor they give you, maybe that they're never really able to reach into their ceiling, but they give you a floor that could be much a fit to this offense. Deontay Thornton, the Tennessee burner.
Yeah, 6'5", 4'3", flat 40. He will, you're thinking a little bit about Randy Moss with those kinds of numbers, right?
You are. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 205, so he's lean. He's got decent arm length. His other testing numbers are more mixed. I'm not saying he's Randy Moss, people. Like, slow down.
No, I know
calm down.
saying.
Calm down. Calm down.
I know what you're saying.
But pretty productive last year, not hugely productive. He's an all-time big play threat. He's somebody that you could just send on go routes 20 times a game, and he wouldn't necessarily be the receiver on any of those plays, but the opposing defense would just be so stressed out trying to deal with that. He's pretty good at breaking off his vertical routes to catch comebackers. It's kind of like what DK was doing for a while there, where DK teams were so afraid of him running deep that he could just break off his deep routes and do a comeback, and he'd be wide open. And what do you do to that? There's not much you can do. He can play with physicality. He's a contested catch weapon. He's got good spatial awareness on the football field, so there's a lot to like. But he's got a very limited route tree. He only runs a few different routes. Never really produced that much. He should have produced more given how gifted he is. That Tennessee offense, man, and this is something we're going to come back to a lot, that Tennessee offense makes it really hard to evaluate receivers because life is so easy. Everybody's always in motion. You're never getting pressed at the line, and you're getting free releases constantly because you're always moving around pre-snap. So it's really hard to judge these guys sometimes. Not really a threat after the catch. He kind of just gets chopped down pretty easily. And his route breaks aren't very sharp. So very, very fun. I think he will end up being more of a decoy at the NFL level rather than somebody who makes a lot of catches. But hey, great value there, right? If I can force the opposing safety to retreat 40 yards back every time he's on the field because he's scared, that's a weapon. So I ended up actually putting him in my late fourth round, which I know is a little bold, but I just think there's so much talent here. It's worth the gamble.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I put him in the fifth round, but I can completely understand drawing him up in the fourth round because he is 6'5", 4'3", 151. Another one of those guys where just no one else is really built in this draft like that in that way. And that the testing times match to what you see him on the field where he is running away from guys. He is challenging guys with that speed, and they're struggling to stay with him. I'll tell you what, too, Brendan, he absolutely annihilates post routes. I don't know if it's because the players are so worried about him coming up on the 9 route, but when he clicks up and he puts that foot in the ground and he goes off to the post, he was open on that so many different times this year. Almost felt like he could get open at will on that. So it was like the go route and the post route was almost all he sometimes a little bit needed to kind of get by on. But agree with all your assessment on him as far as route running's rough, change of direction is going to be a little bit rough with him, limited production. We had Jaylin Hyatt come through here at Tennessee recent years. As a similar kind of receiver, as a big play threat who's not been able to catch on when you speak about the Tennessee offense and sometimes the difficulty in evaluating these guys. Another part of this with Deontay that I think made it hard was that this last year was a year where it looked like the light bulb was starting to really come on and then fighting through injuries throughout the year. Had a knee brace on through a lot of the season. And I wonder about how maybe that was holding him back a little bit from reaching that year where he could add like a Jack Besh year where he goes for 1,000 yards and legitimizes him as a second round kind of player, but instead is kind of just dragging that leg wrong. But like you said, he can be very minimum a decoy for you, a big play threat on your team, a clear out guy on your team. And you need that. I think this kind of offense, there's a lot of talk about having, slots all over the place. I think it's more about having your archetypes. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is an archetype of an X receiver that can get deep and clear guys out with his speed. This guy is very much in that same kind of light of things in how he's built. So getting him in the fourth round, I wouldn't hate it. You're going for upside there, and that's rarely what you're getting in the fourth round is a guy with this kind of upside. I did put fifth round grade. I have him as a little bit in that similar place of the Arian Smith kid out of Georgia, where Burner's on the outside, and there might be one trick ponies, but they'll be really good at that one trick. So liked him a lot.
And I think a lot of the things we say about Thornton could also have been said about DK when he came out, right? He's really fast, but he's not a good route runner. He doesn't change direction. Remember, the big thing with DK was the 3-cone.
Mhm.
It's not that different. And DK was not super productive in college either. Now, that was because of the injury more than anything. But some of the things you say about Thornton will make you think about Metcalf, I think, when he came out.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, Metcalf did it at 30 pounds heavier than Thornton.
Right.
So there is a little bit of that real key difference between the two. But I mean, there's some shades of each of them. There's shades of each other there. I would agree with you on that. I think that's very fair. A couple donations finishing us up here nicely. Thank you for that, Kevin. Says, you think John Schneider, appreciate the $5. You think John Schneider has 1/3, 5, a 1, a 3, and a 5-year plan for JA since 2022? If so, how do you both grade so far? I'll send clean jokes for day 3 for both streams. Great show, by the way. Thank you for that, Kevin. I appreciate that. A JA, what is it? Which one do you mean JA?
JA, let me think here. It's not Jamal Adams, right? That can't be
1-year plan for
JA. The only JA I can think of is Jamal Adams. So let me think here. No. Yeah, I'm not sure what this is trying to get at here.
I think John Schneider has a 1 to 3 to 5-year plan for JA.
JA. I don't know. The only JA I know of is Jamal Adams, so I got nothing.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm sorry, man. I'm not sure what JA means on that.
Oh, okay. The chat has it. Jody Allen. Okay, well, I think
you go ahead and answer first. It's not a fun one. This one is a tough one.
I think it's kind of a mistake to have a 5-year plan in the NFL because rosters turn over so quickly. Like 90% of your roster is going to be different every 3 years. So I think having a 5-year plan is just, it's that saying, man plans and God laughs. Like the football gods laugh even harder. Like, I don't think you can really have something like that. Even a 3-year plan, I mean, that's better, but it's still really dicey to plan this stuff out that far in advance sometimes, I think. So I don't really think he plans that far ahead, and I don't really think he should. Like, who the heck knows what's going to happen in 5 years? For all we know, in 5 years, they're going to outlaw tackling, and it's going to be a flag football. So,
yeah, my feeling on this has been that Jay's been operating. Certainly, he has 3-year plan in place of things in general terms of an idea of what he's doing. But I think he's been operating more year by year, especially when you look at some of how they've done some of the robbing from the future for today, because I think today is so good. That doesn't speak to always having the long-term outlook of things. I think as much as ever right now where he's operating from, it's probably into that more, taking this as a slow approach, especially with what I've considered to be a bit of a step back this offseason to set the stage right for more of a long-term future plan. I don't know if there's really as much connected here to Jody Allen on this, Brendan, because my feeling with Jody Allen is that she is not necessarily got a sale that's imminent here. And if anything, that she kind of wants to generally drag her feet as long as she possibly can, which means that there's a little bit of a state of just everything's kind of in not a holding pattern, but business as usual, I guess is the way I would just say it from Jody to John. And so John just kind of operates like there's not really an impending sale. It's just kind of, you're rolling along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say I'm not a big fan of what Schneider's been doing lately. I think that, he's capable of making good picks. I don't love the story that he's telling right now. I think that if you wanted to take a step back, you should have pushed a little bit harder into that step back in 2025. And you shouldn't have done things like give Jaron Reed a 3-year contract extension. Or if you wanted to go for it, then really go for it. I think he kind of did hang out in the middle here. And I'm not really into it. I don't think it makes sense. I think there were better ways to accomplish what he's trying to accomplish. But, we'll find out. We'll find out in a few months here, but I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I'm probably more of a fan than you are on it, but I definitely could say that I would have been happier to take even more of an extreme step in the step back. I will say that the fans have just about freaked out and revolted just on the partial step back that they've taken with the DK and Geno. I think if you had taken them all the way back, considering the reaction of the fan base as it was with just this, I'm not sure that you wouldn't have gotten them in full freak out mode at that point if you had done it. But that doesn't mean that it wouldn't have been maybe the proper, right, intelligent decision to do to really just pull it all the way back fully, at that point, to your point on that. So I get where you're coming from with it completely to take that approach of it. So
Yeah, I'm never going to say that something is a good idea or bad idea because of how the fans would react to it. Like to me, that's how the fans might react to something and whether or not it's a good idea. Two completely different things.
I'm 100% with you. I don't want it to be, but I also think that there's a difference between what you want and the way reality plays out to this one. And when you have your stadium being filled up by the opposition's fans already in a season where you're walking into that game in first place, what kind of checkout are you going to be getting if you just go into fully basically tank mode in the dial back? And, you're going to go get a Zach Wilson that you're trotting out there at quarterback. Is it just nothing but opposition fans? Should that not matter? Probably shouldn't matter, but I think it does, when it all does get said and done though. Like it does factor in.
Yeah, it does. It does. Doesn't mean I have to like it. In fact,
Nope.
In this case, it means that I have to really dislike it sometimes. But I do like where the defense is going, at least. I think we'll have a great defense this year.
Yep. And I mean, there's a pathway to the team being contended to be contenders, to be good. I'm not predicting it, Brendan, and we're going to both have, I think, ourselves low on the win total side of it. But there's a lot of potentiality with this team on this plan. The games going towards defense in recent years, if that trend continues, if they can start to run the ball with consistency and really lean into running that ball and not having to throw anywhere near as much, play better special teams. You got these things that can come together on an easier schedule next year. You could be better, but it's kind of, there's a variance here for the upcoming season in a lot of ways. Heavy variance.
Yeah.
Roy Froelich, thank you for the $5 donation and finishing us off right here today, Roy, in a great way. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. Says, I appreciate your guys' hard work. Hail BNB. Well, thank you for that, Roy. I really do appreciate that, man. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Thank you to all the folks on the donos today. Kevin, Roy, Yupo. Really appreciate you guys for that. And we will kind of wrap it up on that note, folks. Those are our wide receivers. We're keeping this into kind of our fourth, maybe into a little touching into fifth round range. Not trying to get into really the deep sixth or seventh rounders on this as we go through this, and really trying to look at the guys that are really more of the cream of the crop in this draft, the best of the talents on that, and try to kind of more mark in on those guys as we look at these guys. But like the receiver class, Brendan, I think that we like it a little bit better than what the narrative is out there that will tell you that it's just completely weak. I think that there is some strength to it. I think there's some specific strength where it's just guys who might only give you a role to do a certain thing rather than being those 3 down, outside, inside, put him everywhere. He's just a monster type of guy. Maybe that's what's hard for some of these people, is that you're going to have to be a little bit creative in how you use some of these guys to get the most out of them. But some talent here.
Concerning the receivers, we do have a little bit of breaking news here that I guess we should throw in at the very end here.
Let's go.
Well, it's not good. It's actually very bad. Isaiah Bond has turned himself into police for an outstanding warrant for sexual assault. Really bad time for that to be happening. Really bad timing. That's all-time bad timing. We are less than 2 weeks away from the draft.
I might literally have to do I would get like a release form if I was an athlete for any woman I slept with. You know, that old Dave Chappelle skit from the Chappelle show where he had him to sign the deal. Like, I might literally do that if I was an athlete. Like, I'm not saying that this isn't legit, that something might have gone on. It might have, but the timing's also interesting, right? Right as he's about to go and collect a whole bunch of money, Maybe it's always hard with these guys. It could be either way, but oh my God, yeah, that's horrible timing for that kid, especially a guy that's struggling to legitimize his draft standing a little bit. And hey, no, I can be a 3rd round guy versus a 5th, 6th round guy.
Oh, he's slipping. He's slipping hard.
He's slipping hard, man. And already not one of our favorites when we talked in this show before that breaking news. Both of us were both kind of already like, take him or leave him,
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Right.
Yikes. All right, well, folks, we are going to keep this thing rolling right along here over this next about week span here as we dive through all of these positions in this draft. We're right around about halfway through on our list of this, but we're coming back next week loaded to bear in addition to that, but we're not done even this week. So we're coming back tomorrow. We got the offensive line we're going to be looking at. We're going to be targeting really specific here, folks. Interior offensive linemen, centers, guards. We're going to be looking at some of the better players. With centers, I think we're going to have to dip a little bit down to grab some guys that are more 4th, 5th round, because there's not any good ones in this draft. But we're going to try to really concentrate on the guys that are the scheme fits, pure fits for Seattle. We'll talk a little bit about those guys that we see as tackle guys. That'll be mainly stated tackle that we won't get as much deep into because, hey, we see them as more tackles, so let's not even really connect them here. But We're going to be right back at it tomorrow, 12 o'clock, getting these offensive linemen. And then all next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll be diving in on some of the other defenders, safeties, cornerbacks, inside linebackers, getting into all that as well. So
All right.
coverage just keeps rolling along here, Brennan. I appreciate you doing this and going end to end with me on this every year as we do on this. Thank you, folks, for watching. If you could hit the like button on both of our sides of it, wherever you're watching, either on Brendan's channel or my channel, sub on up if you get a chance to. That helps us out tremendously on that side of it. We will be back in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on, man.
I appreciate you, man. This is awesome doing this. I love chopping up with these kind of guys. So we'll keep this going, man. Thank you for it. And back soon, folks. Until next time, don't forget. Don't you ever forget. Oh, don't you do it. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.